I'm sitting here on mute saying good morning, everyone. Get myself prepped. I have no excuse for that because I could have done this all in the background. Could have unmuted myself. But good morning. Glad to have you guys here with us. We got a fun day today. We will be doing this all on one continuous stream. We have confirmed that and double checked. So if you don't get the humor behind that, it is just because we had some issues with that the last several days. But I am positive we are going to be on one stream for this today. What will end up happening is we'll have a small gap. So we'll have an intermission on this stream. I'll make it very clear that there's going to be an intermission, and then we will tune back in with you guys. Let's see who's saying good morning. Well, Megan said good morning to me so far. Appreciate it. We also got Talisha saying good morning. Appreciate you guys. It's always tough for me because I did get this new TV to kind of use for the chat, but I don't know if you guys realize this. When I stare at you, I'm staring at a teleprompter, so I got to glance down to get to the chat and stuff like that. But good to see everyone. Welcome back. We have two things that we're doing today. Again, all on the same stream. It will be basically back to back. There's going to be a small intermission. So the first thing that we are doing is something called Supplement Squad. Now, this is one of our pre-recorded sessions. The next session after this on the same stream is going to be live, and that is a case study with Bria Gadd. So who is Supplement Squad for? Who would want to stay for this? This is definitely for anyone that is a practitioner that's not considering the FDN course, but would like to learn more about the supplement side of things. And it's certainly for people who are looking into the FDN course and do want to learn more about the supplement side of things. So we don't act like we're the best at everything. I think that's foolish. Different places and certifications have their strengths, of course. That's why they're able to operate and are in business. But just like I would say, XYZ program is probably one of the best in coaching or whatever it might be. I would confidently say that FDN is probably some of the best trained supplement practitioners out there. Now, what I mean by that, what does best trained actually mean? This doesn't mean that we're the best at pushing them or giving them to a bunch of people and making them take them for life. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is we are the best at coming up with these advanced protocols and really understanding how to utilize specific supplements for specific cases. Another thing that you need to know about FDN, because people have asked this throughout the week with labs and supplements. There we go. Now I see the hellos. Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you guys. I think there's one question there. I'll answer that in a moment. One thing that you need to know about us at FDN, we are not lab loyal. We're not supplement loyal. We are principle loyal. So I'll say that again real quick. We are not lab loyal. We're not supplement loyal, but we are principle loyal. What does that mean? It means that FDN is a way of thinking. FDN is a set of principles. There's only one woo-woo thing that we'll ever ask of you at FDN. FDN is very technical, very science-based, but there's one woo-woo thing that you're going to have to believe in and get on board with. And maybe you resonate with this. You can let me know in the chat if you don't. Please let me know if you do, though, as well, just so it's not the people who don't. One thing that we adamantly believe is that this body that we are in has an innate healing ability. The body that we are given has an innate healing ability. Now, I'm of faith. I believe God gave us that. You don't have to resonate with that. You could believe in something else. Regardless, we could come to the same belief, hopefully, that this body that we are in, that we are renting, maybe, if you will, while we're on this earth, does have an innate healing ability. And I would not even argue that that's particularly woo-woo. Why? Because you've already activated that unique healing ability or innate healing ability, throughout your life. How do I know this? Well, I know this because if you've been alive for more than probably a year, I'm guessing you've gotten a paper cut or some type of scab or whatever. Has that ever happened to you? Well, I don't know about you. I didn't need to go to the doctor for the paper cut. I didn't need to take a medication. I did not need to look at my finger when it had that paper cut and say, you need to heal for me right now. That's not how it worked. What worked is I got the paper cut. All of a sudden, I go to bed that night. I wake up the next day. And, oh, that looks a little better than the day before. Then I go to bed again. I wake up the following day. Wow, that barely is even there anymore. Then I go to bed again. I wake up that third day, and lo and behold, there's either just a scab that doesn't bother me, or I would have forgotten at that point that the paper cut was even there. So you tell me, if that's not an innate healing ability, what is it? What is it? If you've broken a bone in your life and you've had to have a cast on it, maybe you broke your arm as a kid and people were signing it for you in school, I don't know if you realize this, but there's not magical chemicals that are released from that cast that fix your arm. That's not how it works. In fact, the only reason that we have casts is because we know that the body has an innate healing ability, and we're going to put it back into place. Because the body could screw up in the sense of if your arm's all crooked and you didn't have it in the right place, that innate healing ability could mean that it's going to heal in a direction that does not make sense, and you got an arm that's all crooked for the rest of your life. But the cast that we invented and that we use in modern medicine is literally because we are directing that innate healing ability. We already know that it's going to happen. So we say, all right, let's make sure it happens perfectly. Let's make sure that the arm heals in the direction that it was supposed to heal so that I don't walk around with a 90-degree forearm for the rest of my life. It's pretty darn cool when you think about it. So that's the only woo-woo thing we'll ever ask you to believe here. Everything else is extremely science-based and principle-based. So that's the only thing we're loyal to. The supplements and the labs, they come and go, man. So with Supplement Squad, I want you to think about this today because it is going to be more advanced than you'd probably expect. I hope it is, actually. This is stuff that even our trainees are learning. This is stuff that they're getting support with. These are actually, what's even crazier is Supplement Squad is not even required to go through the curriculum. This is an optional call that you can attend or watch the recording of while you're going through FDN so that you can keep your training at a higher level. And again, I do believe wholeheartedly that people that are not interested in the FDN course but are in this holistic space will still benefit from this. So once we get through the Supplement Squad, I'll hop back on here. We will have, again, a little bit of an intermission. We'll be on this same stream. And I'm sorry that I keep repeating myself. It's just that new people keep coming on. I'm watching the numbers go up. So I want to make sure that they know that. We'll be on this same stream. I'll have something up that'll be like a little intermission thing. And then at 1 o'clock Eastern, we will be live with Bria Gadd going over a case study. And Bria is not someone who is an individual who gets to speak that often for our community, not because we don't want her. It's just because we haven't gotten to talk to her that much over the last couple of years. I've only gotten to interact with her a few times here and there, so I'm super excited to get to show her off to you guys. So let's see what we got here really quick before we get started. I'll show some of the stuff on stream. Okay. Hey, Dina, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. And you're a trainee, so it's cool that the trainees show up for this because you guys could be accessing this anyway, but I'm glad that you guys are live. Holly said, I've seen bones regrow where the broken bone was ejected in accident. I have a series of x-ray images showing it rematerialize over time. Isn't that amazing? So I say it almost tongue-in-cheek that it's the only woo-woo thing we'll ask you guys to believe in at FDN because it's really not. Like, we already know that the body can regenerate. What happens if I fast to the epithelial cell layer in my gut? What happens if I fast? It starts healing. It's amazing. They're some of the fastest regenerating cells in the body. Really cool. Morning, if anyone's contemplating on doing an FDN, do it. You guys are great. Love the trainees and grads that hop on. I wish I could give you guys something for this, but you are awesome. I'm almost finished, and it's the best, most meaningful thing. Wish someone had told me this sooner. We would love to get you on the graduate roundtable once you're done. All right, let's see. I believe that wholeheartedly, says someone. Awesome. And then, great. What type of teleprompter do I use and love? That is an excellent question. Let me look here. So it's called Glide Gear. And the reason I didn't know offhand is because, have I shown you guys yet? Can you be honest with me in the chat? How many people truly in like the beginning of this, and maybe you didn't, that's fine, but be honest, please, if you did. How many of you thought that this background is real? And then I promise we'll get started here. I'll take 30 seconds for this because there's a delay. Put a 1 if you thought this was real. Put a 2 if you knew that my background was fake. And the reason that I'm asking that is because when we moved to Austin, I had this guy, he actually lives in Austin, but his program teaches people how to convert a bedroom or a room that's like 8 by 10 into a fully digital studio. So this place is insane. If you could actually see it, I posted it on 2. No. Oh, I got a 1. Nice. So I'm tricking somebody. That's great. But it's not a bad virtual background, right? So yes, it is virtual. And then I can go with the snap of my fingers like this into another FDN background. When my wife is working, she works for Dr. Josh Axe. We snap our fingers again, and now we're at the Health Institute. So we are able to play with this stuff and change it around a little bit. All right, good. I have some 1s. I appreciate your honesty. Some 2s, no worries. So, that's why we have this all set up. I didn't know what the heck I bought. I just knew that I wanted this set up. So it is a Glide Gear. I think I'd probably change now, knowing what I know, to the newer teleprompter that just came out. NEWW, 2 W's, ER, newer, and that'll have that. So, all right, thanks guys for humoring me. I appreciate you. No worries about knowing that it was fake. Oh, good. It looks real, but you knew it was real because I wasn't talking about it. Awesome. All right, let's get to Supplement Squad. I am stalling a little bit because I didn't want us to have a super long intermission. So we will get into this right now. I already have the video up for you guys. Again, I'll be here in the background. If you have any questions as we go along, try not to ask me super technical ones. I am the podcast and event host. These are the people that I go to have advanced questions answered for me as well. I hope that you guys enjoy it, and I will see you in a little bit. Remember, we're going to be on this exact same stream for Bria Gadd's case study at 1 o'clock Eastern. Here we go, folks. Just letting you know it's working. They were still getting started. It's on a Zoom, so it's not that you can't hear anything. Kurt starts in just a moment here. Let me try to fast forward it for you guys.
Piece those clues together and make recommendations on that. So today we are going into immune.
All right, guys, they wanted to make this as tricky for me as possible. So just work with me here while it's loading. Sorry, I'm just talking because then I'll get a bunch of things in the chat saying the sound's not working or something's off. I don't know why they didn't cut this part, actually. There we go. All right, enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Christina. Hi, Jaya.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Kurt. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Cheyenne.
All right, just give me 1 second to get everyone entered. Okay, I think we have everyone entered. All right, welcome everybody to the March supplement squad. Can't believe we're already in March, and we're right on the cusp of changing time, just a few days away. So, all right, welcome everybody. My name is Kurt. I am a mentor with the FDN program, as many of you already know. I am also joined with the rest of the squad today, which is Jayun and Christina, both fantastic mentors and supplement gurus. So, as many of you know, we are starting over, and last month we started back in the age of hidden, where we're going back to the hormones, but last month we did it a little bit different than the first go around, where we were actually talking more about what lab markers we're looking at and how us as mentors and practitioners kind of piece those clues together and make recommendations on that. So today we are going into immune. So we're going to talk about the immune supplements and markers on the foundational labs that are immune related. Let's see. All right, can everyone see my screen? Wonderful. All right, for those of you who are joining for the first time, what we try to do is the first half hour or so, we will discuss some of the recommendations, the lab markers, things like that pertain to immune. Christina and Jayun will also be monitoring the chat. So if you want to drop any questions in there, if they are questions that a lot of you probably have, Christina or Jayun will kind of announce that to the rest of the class. And then toward the end of the call today, we'll have an open Q&A where everybody can raise their hands and ask questions and like that. So, all right. So first we're going to go into the immune, and we want to talk today about some of the markers that we're going to be looking at on the foundational labs. And I think one of the most obvious ones is going to be secretory IgA. And the interesting thing about secretory IgA, if you've attended Hot Topics or you've heard one of Elizabeth's analogies, is we think of the secretory IgA as one of those bar bouncers, the one that's checking everyone's ID before they're coming in, making sure they're the appropriate age to come in. But what happens is if you see that secretory IgA marker on the more elevated side, can start to happen is the immune system is kind of in an overdrive, right? It's making rational decisions on who's the good guy, who's the bad guy that's coming in. So I want ask either Christina or Jayun because I need to let more participants in. They keep popping up, so that's why I sound a little distracted. If one of you don't mind chiming in on, because we're looking at secretory IgA on two different labs. We're looking at it on the SHP, we're looking at it on the GI map. So if one of you don't mind chiming in and explaining what that key difference is and also why those markers won't always be telling the same story on those two labs, where you might see one high and one low on the other. All right, whoever wants to take over that question.
Christina, do you want to start?
Sure. The biggest difference, I guess, when we're looking at it on the SHP is we're kind of looking at an upper GI response, so an active response happening in the body, starting in our salivary glands. So you're going to see sort of that immune marker, respiratory, salivary, and it means that we have actively working on something. So even though it's the same in your GI system, right, you're actively working on something that's activated the immune system. It is something you've processed in the GI. So your body's actively processed, working on maybe a pathological, maybe parasites, maybe food intolerances, right, that you kind of process through your system versus the SHP active response, meaning that you've got something happening actively in your body. It's kind of the really basic way to explain the difference between the two.
Yeah, thanks for that, Christina. So the point of all of that is also to, sorry, people keep popping up when I'm sharing. I can't see the chat and I can't see the participants joining. So all right, so kudos to people who can do Zoom calls all by themselves.
Right, and try to watch everything.
Yeah, Christina, I'm going to make you a co-host. That
Okay.
way you can admit people under the participant tab if they start coming in. Thank you. Now I won't sound as distracted, hopefully. There's plenty of other things to distract me. All right. So, the big takeaway from that is you're not always going to see that marker the same on both of those labs, on the SHP, on the GI map. You could see one that's high, you could see one that's low, and sometimes you will see them telling the same story. Maybe they both will be high, maybe they both will be low. I just don't want you to keep that idea that they're always going to be the telling the exact same story. But one important thing that I think is worth noting about the secretory IgA and looking at that from that immune perspective is we're looking at one part of the immune system. We're looking at that initial response, that initial screening of the screening component of the immune system. So if we're keeping to that bar bouncer analogy, right? And we are you're driving by that bar and you see that there's a lot of bar bouncers outside. You could say, hey, there might be a Super Bowl party going on inside, right? They must be really packed today. They must be slammed. And you walk inside to realize the bar is empty, right? Or if you see that there's not a lot of bar bouncers that's outside that's checking the ID, and you can assume, okay, that bar must be empty today, it must be on the quiet side, and then you go in and the Super Bowl party is happening, right? So what my point is of saying that is we can use that marker as a very valuable tool at seeing how the immune is functioning, how the immune system is functioning and what kind of burden. But we also need to know that it's one component of the immune system, and there are instances where we don't want to completely overstimulate the immune system just because you see it on the low side, and you don't want to suppress the immune system all the time just because you're seeing secretory IgA on the high side, if that makes sense. So an example of that is we have the echinacea, right, which is a very powerful ingredient for immune support, especially in times of exposure to pathogens or something like that. And I want to ask in a second, Jayun and Christina's their take on this as well. But echinacea is one of those that is going to do a great job at stimulating the immune system. And it sometimes is one of those situations where uh, if you call on the immune system too much, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. And I hear this a lot in the functional health world where you take something like echinacea, there are a lot of immune response that's going to come from it. But if you keep doing it time and time again, eventually the immune system might not be responding as robustly as it would have once before, especially if it wasn't over called on continuous times. So I like to use echinacea or products containing echinacea in a shorter amount of time, especially around 2 weeks of an increment. I like to think of it kind of like you would an antibiotic, right? 7 or 10 days you're taking it, and then you're taking some time off from taking it again. But we also want to make sure that we are calling on the immune system to, do its thing to fight off pathogens, which is why echinacea is great for those situations where if you feel like you're coming down with something or you're going into crowded areas where there's going to be a lot of germs and contamination. But Jayun and Christine, I want to ask a question to either of you or both of you, actually. When would you, in your practice with your clients, feel based off the markers that we're looking at uh, on the foundational labs, when would you use something like echinacea or an echinacea containing product with your client? What are you looking for in those situations to feel echinacea is an appropriate time and ingredient to use?
I totally agree. Echinacea, I would not recommend it like for long-term use, and we want to be kind of more cautious use echinacea because it's an immune stimulator. And so I mean basically for from the FDN perspective, whatever markers on the in the lab actually doesn't lead me to make a decision, recommend a product containing echinacea. I mean, it's like for my personal use, I have a echinacea or echinacea containing product. Use that as a like I put it aside just whenever, when I need to travel or whenever there's like a really bad flu season, a lot of people get sick around. I use that as like a short-term support, and just exactly as Kurt mentioned before. And also, if I know somebody already have like immune imbalance, which means not necessarily hypo immunity is like an imbalance. They have this allergy, they have this asthma, or they have a lot of sensitivity going on, and I will be really cautious with using the echinacea. And also, if someone with autoimmune, or they may have or we suspect that someone has an autoimmune ongoing, and I will definitely not use the echinacea in that case. And I also want to add one thing, just Kurt mentioned before, on when you see the secreted IgA on the saliva and the GI map, probably tell different story. And Christina mentioned and explained that this secreted IgA in saliva and in the stool test, of course, they tell us a different story. They are at a different location. And another thing I also want to point out is on the GI map, the secreted IgA, and I think Elizabeth also explained that before, you're going to take like several steps for the secreted IgA to show up in the stool test, show up on the GMAP report. So what I'm saying is the positive on the GMAP is absolutely a positive. Negative, not always, because it depends on how you collect the sample, right? I mean, you only grab like a small chunk from the stool, and that may not have the secreted IgA possibly. So in that case, I probably would correlate with other things on the GMAP to confirm if this is low secreted IgA on the GMAP really tells us a compromised gut immunity. So I will look at if there's like if the both commensal bacteria, both phylum are very low, and then it's possible the secreted IgA is telling us the true story, because we know you need to have a strong commensal bacteria to stimulate the secreted IgA production. So if I see very low on the GMF, then it's possibly the secreted IgA, low secreted IgA on the GMS is telling us the true story. But on the other side, you see a lot of infection going on. Yeah, you have H. pylori, you have a candida, you have a lot of optimistic bacteria going on. So in that case, low secreted IgA probably not always true, or say you also possibly like you have this chronic infection going on for a long time, it just burn out the immune system. So there's just need to make more correlation to really decide what this secreted IgA on the GM map tells us. But back to the question, echinacea, I agree with everything you said, Kurt.
Wonderful. Thanks for that insight as well. Christina, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or did we cover it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty covered.
Thanks. So one thing that I do want to talk about, though, we're talking about the echinacea on here, but I wanted to bring it back to talking about the ingredients for the products that are on the 90-day sheet. But the reason I wanted to bring up echinacea is because it's often that go-to, you're going to find it and formulate it into the products. You're going to have, I've seen it in lozenges. I've seen it in, pretty much every immune formula. But what I wanted to point out was the ingredients that we have in the daily immune that we have on the 90-day sheet for the pure encapsulations. It has components that affect more of immune modulation. And what we mean by that is it's going to, when we say where it's modulating something, it's increasing or decreasing, basically encouraging that homeostasis of the immune system. Or, we talk about modulation with SIG-A on the Mega IgG 2000. We talk about modulation for cortisol with the phosphatidylserine. Basically, it's moving it where it needs to be. The body needs more of it. The body needs less of it. It's trying to create that homeostasis. So the daily immune has a lot of immune modulators in there. We have astragalus in here. We have arabinogalactan, which you may also see as larch arabinogalactan. And both of those are powerful immune modulators as well, but they're doing it in a couple different ways. Now, and it's to my understanding, and Jayun or Christina chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, but large arabinogalactan is operating more of that prebiotic fiber that's going to be helping more of that gut immune system. We have 70% of the immune system in the gut. Arabinogalactan is working more as a prebiotic fiber, helping to create a healthier terrain and a healthier environment for that 70% of the immune system to do its job better. And astragalus is more of a immune modulating, more from head to toe immune modulating. So astragalus is going to be a fine option for if somebody has an autoimmune disease, right? And like Jayun was talking about, if somebody comes to me and they have Raynaud's, they have Hashimoto's, they have autoimmune flare-ups or something like that, I don't want to add fuel to the fire by adding in something like echinacea with them. I would want to be with more calmer ingredients like arabinogalactan or astragalus. Lemon balm is also effective for helping with the immune system by taking a burden for viral components. And it does have, and it's been used for centuries for the antiviral component with it as well. And quercetin in here by helping to modulate more of that histamine response that can come with the immune reaction. Because remember, histamine is that chemical part of the immune system. So, calling out a couple of those ingredients, I'm pointing it out because this product isn't really one that you would want to be afraid of. My opinion, I want to get Christina and Jayun's idea on that too. I personally wouldn't be afraid of using this product on somebody that has a known autoimmune disease because it's affecting or the impact is more from that modulating of the immune system rather than directly stimulating it and adding fuel to the fire. Jayun or Christina, do you have any comments on that?
I would just say there's always a difference when you're using a blended supplement versus if somebody was taking just echinacea straight. right? I would definitely want to have that differentiation. You've got a nice blend here that's kind of coming to support the immune system, stimulate the immune system in a few different ways versus kind of a straight shot with a singular herb, basically.
And Christina, you brought up a valid point, and it's something that we have talked a lot about now since we've been on these supplement squad calls is formulas versus these standalone ingredients. We're taking pretty much most of the ingredients, formulas. Sorry, most of the products that are on the 90-day supplement sheet are formulas that do contain a number of ingredients. And how much of a raw ingredient can you fit into a capsule, right? In this case, 2 capsules. So even if it is something where like echinacea was included into the formula, how much of it is in there is really going to be a thing too. Um, on a fun fact kind of thing about echinacea is real echinacea, high potent echinacea, especially in a tablet form or a liquid form, is going to make your mouth tingle. It's going to make your mouth almost feel like you have pop rocks, like the candy, or it's going to have a fuzzy feeling, and that's how you can tell that you have um, a potent formula of echinacea, because echinacea is so uh, widely recommended now. There's so many diluted forms of it and stuff, because some of these supplement manufacturers, like Ricola, for example, the cough drops, Ricola, these products, they need to be available to the general public. They can't have, they're at the cash register when you're checking out at the grocery store. These supplement companies that are available to everyone willy-nilly like that, they can't run the liability of putting out a product that's going to be too strong, and the however many millions of Americans that have autoimmune disease, that it's going to cause issues with them. So you're going to find products like that to have a much more diluted form of the ingredients. But just a fun fact about true echinacea, it's going to make your mouth tingle. And back in the day, that's actually how echinacea was tested for potency. The supplement company's standard process, that's what they used in their marketing for years, was true echinacea will make your mouth tingle. And that was their marketing for that. So just a fun little fact about echinacea. But
There's a sorry,
go ahead.
I'm just saying there's a couple of questions in the chat.
Go ahead.
And yeah, I mean, the question, since we're open the door discussing the autoimmune condition, what kind of immune support are going to be good for people with autoimmune condition, if the daily immune is okay to use with the people with like a Hashimoto or multiple sclerosis. I mean, I think there's no single answer to that. And just like Kurt said, the daily immune, I mean, from my perspective, I think this is less likely to cause flare up for the autoimmune condition, and compare with like those purely immune stimulating, like echinacea, like spirulina, or those type of immuno-stimulating agents, and this is less likely. But I think we never know, because for the autoimmune condition, you don't know where is the imbalance, is if it's a Th1 dominant or if it's Th2 dominant. And people are saying like a Hashimoto is 90% of Th1 dominant, but still there's like a small percentage of a population with autoimmune, they probably are Th2. And a lot of other autoimmune conditions are actually a mixed, could be Th1, could be Th2. So in that case, I think before you try it, you never know. But in this case, I think a daily immune is not very likely, but you have to try it. I still see there's a couple of ingredients there, like elderberry. I'm not so sure, and that sometimes is also considered as immune stimulating. And astragalus, sometimes it's I think this one more like a support a Th1. So it's more like a good for the Th2 dominant, not necessarily good for Th1 dominant. So I think we don't have like a simple answer here. And if I don't know if Christina or Cordy you agree, but I would say you just have to try. Or in some cases, if you don't comfortable, you're worried about the flare up, a possible flare up, you don't want to take the risk, and then we don't use this type of the herbal agent. You can go with a more safe immune support nutrients like vitamin D, like omega-3, like I don't know what else, the
Zinc, vitamin C,
yeah, that think about, yeah, those type of
quercetin.
thing. And
Yeah.
also probiotic, when you work on the gut, when you optimize the gut microbiome, you're gonna have a great impact on overall immunity. So
So the short answer is every client's going to be different. It depends on how sensitive they are to supplements in general, how comfortable they feel, what their labs look like. Do they really need some immune support, right? That they may be really tanked and they're feeling that. They're feeling sick all the time. They're having a hard time recovering. It's probably worth the challenge to see how can I do on this. But there's no guarantees with any supplements that they're going to work the same for every person.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing to take away from it. And that's whereas FDN practitioners, we're not creating a carbon copy protocol for every single person. There is that bio-individuality. There's that component that we're looking at for each individual person. We're making these recommendations on a case-by-case basis. And I've said it a million times, but supplements are 25% of dress. So if you're looking at immune system support as well, especially in more of acute situations, like there's cold and flu season, you have sick kids at home, you're a school teacher, you're a nurse or something like that, and you feel like you're coming down with something. There's a reason grandma's chicken soup is a magical thing, right? The bone broth, the
Sleep.
healing component of, what was that?
Sleep.
Yes, sleep. The R in dress. There's all of those components, for diet, for rest, and the rest of the dress protocol that's going to help with immune system support. So, you know, as I always say, when in doubt, leave it out in regards to supplements. If you're not entirely confident that this is going to be a safe and effective product, don't add it in, right? But what is safe and effective for almost everybody are fruits and vegetables, right? Eating healthy, lean proteins, bone broths, things like that. For most people, those are going to be very nourishing to the immune system, and you're not going to run the risk of giving somebody an autoimmune flare-up because they ate a healthy salad for lunch, right? Knock on wood in most cases.
Right.
But and so with this product that we're speaking of, we keep coming back to that whole immune modulation component. We've talked on so many of these supplement squad calls about Mega IgG 2000. Everybody now knows that's my favorite product, but we talk about that because of its SIG-A modulating effect, right? It's going to be affecting the SIG-A and the gut immune system. It's going to increase it or decrease it. But I want to keep on that whole modulation talk and talk about, another biocidin product. It's not on the 90-day list, but because we do recommend biocidin, I want to bring it up. But biocidin has a product that is a throat spray, right? And it is a spray that you can spray in the throat. But how it works is a little different than the rest of the biocidin line, and it works by modulating the SIG-A as well. And the reason I'm wanting to bring this up is because this is a product, and Jayona, Christina, I'd like for you to chime in a minute as well, but it's a product that I found to be effective for those with autoimmune. I work with a lot of clients that have autoimmune disease, and how it's working, it's not your typical throat spray. And when COVID started, way back when, nearly half a decade ago now, when COVID had started, I was using a Gaia throat spray that was Golden Seal, which is really good for viruses. It was echinacea, really made your mouth tingle. Tasted awful, right? But I was always using that grocery shopping, going to work, going to run errands and stuff. And I was just going through bottles all the time. It was a really stimulating, immune stimulating product, right? Knock on wood, I didn't get original COVID. And I feel like I contribute a lot of it to the golden seal, to those high potent ingredients in there. But because I do have autoimmune, it was causing me to have flare-ups of autoimmune, like an autoimmune storm. I was getting the joint pain, I was getting the flushing and stuff. But living in that era, I was just spraying away, dealing with the autoimmune flare-up. But then it really sent me down this rabbit hole of wanting to know more about how are these throat sprays working? Because after COVID was coming around, you were seeing all these throat sprays coming out, and all these different supplement companies were releasing them. And then it really got me researching, because I nerd out on all of this stuff and I dissect it to death. And it got me researching of what makes these throat sprays different than one another. And it got me to the Biocidin throat spray, which I thought was just another one, but it's a immune modulating throat spray as well. And so how it works is it's working on that SIG-A component. So when you're spraying the Biocidin throat sprayers, it is Biocidin TS in their product line. It's actually working on the mucosal barrier of the respiratory tract, of the throat, of the mouth, the entire oral cavity, and the nose. Thanks, Christina. The sinuses and all of those, and really activating that SIG-A response there, so that, remember, SIG-A isn't necessarily overactivating the immune system. It's having more precision and deciding who's the good guy and who's the bad guy that's coming through, so that your own immune system won't be overstimulated, but can do a more effective job at determining what's good, what's bad, right? That makes sense. Jayun or Christina, did you have any comments on anything we've talked about so far? Are there any questions in the chat we should go over?
There are some questions. So I'm gonna tell the throat spray for a moment. It's something I always have in the cabinet. It's something I use with my kids. Coming home with some kind of whatever it's going on around school. The throat spray is amazing. It helps with postnasal drip, which I think is like one of the worst. It's a bane of a cold, right? It's like that drip down the back of your throat. It's the worst. So the throat spray is amazing for helping to cut that out and really getting that mucosal lining healthy again, right? And getting rid of the bugs. We do have a question with regards to mega IgG and whether or not that is a good option for somebody with autoimmune issues. I figured we were going to be talking about that. It's on one of our favorites lists. So I don't know if you want to go to that, and we'll answer it
Sure.
in conjunction with our talk of whatever we want to talk about.
Yep. Do you want me to start with that one?
Yeah, go ahead. That's your
Cool.
favorite.
It's my favorite. It's so funny how, as practitioners, we have favorite things like that, but it is one of my favorite products, and it's one of my favorite products because it's so well tolerated by most people. And I say by most people and well tolerated because while this, compared to say GI detox, is far less constipating, there are clients that can have constipation and stuff about it. But what is great about this one, and why I would prefer to use something like this for somebody that has autoimmune, is it's staying in the gut lining, in that gut lumen. It's not going to leak out, right? And so my joke is, even if you had Swiss cheese of a leaky gut and you had all these holes in it, it's not going to leak out. And it's because the bovine immunoglobulins are too big to fit through a leaky gut. So they're going to stay in that gut lumen, which is why this can be an effective binder as well, because it's going to bind to those biotoxins. Remember, it's not a physical binder, so it's not going to have charcoals or clays in it. It's not going to bind to heavy metals or anything like that. But if you think like pathogen die-off, molds, things like that, it will have a binding capacity to them. And because it can't leak out the gut, it's going to be carried through the gut lumen and eliminated when you go to the bathroom. But this product is derived from bovine serum, right? So colostrum is another immunoglobulin IgG product, but colostrum has dairy in it, right? So if you're actively avoiding dairy, if you have a sensitivity to dairy, there is a chance that taking colostrum is going to cause you some trouble. But taking bovine serum derived means that those immunoglobulins have been extracted, so there is no dairy, there is no whey, there is no casein proteins left over. So unless you were avoiding animal products and you were vegan or uh you know well, I guess just vegan because you're a vegetarian, you would have dairy. But if you were vegan or plant-based and you were actively avoiding, animal products or dairy or something like that, that would really be the only contraindication for a product like this. But this one is going to have a major, so to get that binding capacity, this will have a much more binding capability than something like colostrum because the mega IgG immunoglobulins, to get that binding capacity, you need about 3 grams worth. And colostrum in a typical serving size is going to be about 1.5 grams. So that's about 50% of that binding capacity. Something like mega IgG is going to be closer to that 3 gram or more, which is going to increase the binding. So it's great for if you're having a die-off reaction, if you have a client that's more sensitive to die-off reaction or something like that. But as far as direct immune stimulation, you're not going to find it as much with this product as you would with, say, echinacea or something, because you're not activating that systemic immune response. You're modulating, so you're increasing or decreasing that SIG-A. You're not directly stimulating it. It is staying in the gut lumen, so it's not going to be circulating through. So it shouldn't have an impact on somebody by causing a flare up or anything like that. Christina or Jayun, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I like Micah IgG 2000, and I also feel we kind of have a better handle with that because just like Kurt said, this stay in the gut, and if we see very low secreted IgA or very high on the GI map, and then that's kind of a clear indication we can use this product to support. Or sometimes if I see there's a lot of overgrowth of those gram-negative bacteria, and especially those LPS producer, we see that overgrowth on the GI map, and this product can also be very helpful because it can be used as a binder. This IgG this immunoglobulin, they're really good at binding those toxins. So if you see the the H. pylori, or if you see high toxin from the C. diff, or you see candida or like other gram-negative LPS producer like Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, those stuff, if those are overgrowth, and that's also another good indication of using the Mega IgG 2000. And also, I feel more comfortable using this one with even people has the immune imbalance. We don't know exactly where the imbalance is, but maybe they have autoimmune or they have like those Th2 dominant symptoms, like a lot of allergy, a lot sensitivity. I think this product probably is more, I feel is kind of safer than the other stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot safer because you're not directly stimulating, you're helping the body help itself, essentially. But it's a great product, and I feel like it's now become a joke of how much I love this product. Maybe I should buy stock in them.
Right? You should go be a speaker.
All right. And Jayun, I actually wanted to ask you a question about this because I know you are well versed when it comes to fillers and stuff and ingredients. And uh, what would be your take? And I get this question and I don't quite know how to answer it, but with the sunflower lecithin in there, what impact do you feel, or the common question that I get is, what if somebody is trying to avoid sunflowers or seeds or something like that? What would be your opinion on a filler like that, and how would you answer that question?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a tough question. I don't have a very
But
good answer on
okay,
that, and I probably won't worry about that too much. And yeah, it's like if you want to avoid the sunflower seeds, that's how much you actually have it in the supplements if they only use like tiny amount as a filler or any other purpose. I I probably don't worry too much, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer on that. Sorry.
well, you make me feel better because I didn't have an answer, and I've gotten that from uh people in the past, and I don't quite know how to answer it. So thank you for not knowing
Yeah.
it too. So maybe it's something we shouldn't be focused too much on.
I would think the amount that would be in something like this would be so minimal that it wouldn't be impactful.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
my idea is it's listed as other ingredients because it's not an active ingredient.
Right? Yeah.
Most of the, well, pretty much all of the companies that, we have on that 90-day sheet are partly on there because we trust the whole manufacturing process when it comes to fillers and stuff like that. And so you're not taking it as an active ingredient, and it is one component from the sunflower seed. That is how I look at it. All right. Well, let's open the rest of the time that we have. Let's open the floor for people raising hands and asking questions if you'd like. Otherwise, we
Kurt,
can.
there are actually a few questions in the
Okay.
chat, and we didn't have the chance to answer all of them. There's like a one. Let me see. Yeah, I guess this is related. This is a question from Holly. I guess it's related to the daily immune, pure encapsulation daily immune. Would you avoid using this one if somebody has a high security IgA?
Um, I personally wouldn't worry about avoiding it because remember that secretory IgA isn't a picture of the entire immune system. It's a picture of that initial screening component of the immune system, right? So they're also, we have the bar bouncer analogy, but they're also kind of like the TSA agents when you go to the airport. They're the ones that's kind of scanning you and scanning your bags. It's just one part of that whole airport, you know, component. And so I wouldn't worry about it if somebody had high secretory IgA, because what that means is, while yes, the immune system might be in overdrive, the immune system might be in an overactive state. Remember, with that bar analogy, we don't know what's going on inside the bar. We don't know if it's overly busy because there's so many pathogens it's dealing with, or if it's been overstimulated or not. Jayun, Christina, do you have any further elaboration on that?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah. Another question is how long is it safe to take Mega IgG 2000? Did I miss one before that, Jillian? I think you might have answered it already in the chat, but um, I basically I don't think you should be taking any supplement indefinitely. So we'll start with that. Most of the time you're using it in like a 4 to 12 week time frame for something that you're trying to actively work on, and then you'd want to retest and see where someone lands. If you're going to take it for more than 3 months, you should be assessing, do I feel like my immune system is improving? Do I the symptomology that I'm working on correcting, do I feel better? If you're not feeling better, then it's time to reassess and see what else is going on that might be being missed, because you shouldn't need to take it as a daily supplement, right?
Mhm.
It's got a purpose, and there's an end to the purpose.
Yeah. I agree 100%. It's not unsafe to take it for an extended period of time. You can take it for, I mean, I've had clients on it for a year, but to Christina's point, if you're not seeing improvement, there's something else that's an overlooked hidden healing opportunity that you need to uncover. So remember that metabolic chaos scorecard is a very effective way to see how is that immune number moving? Is that immune number going to be improving? And then maybe we do need to stay on it a little bit longer, but if that immune number is barely budging, then like Christina was saying, there's something else that we need to uncover, and you need to look for more healing opportunities. And this goes back to like the lab testings that we offer. We have the foundational labs, and I hear this all the time in study hour, and even in the graduate groups of wanting to learn more about oat testing, wanting to do Dutch testing, wanting to do all these other tests that all the cool kids are running these days. And, the thing about it is I like to save those for further down the line. So I do the foundational labs. I like to save those for further down the line, 3 months, 6 months down the road, when, like Christina was saying, we need to find more healing opportunities. Then we need to start digging deeper to figure out running an organic acids test. Is there mold that's causing an issue or something like that? But don't underestimate the value of that metabolic chaos scorecard, because even if you see that number improving 4 points, 5 points, and what could seem like a minuscule amount could be a tremendous amount inside the body of improvement and those hidden stressors being taken away.
Another question from Yan, and she is asking if we have like a dictionary type of a reference. So I sent a link to the natural medicine database, and after we graduated from FDN, if we join the FDNP, if you're the member of FDNP, you get the access to the natural medicine database for free, and that's a great resource.
Yeah, natural medicines database. I love that as much as Mega IgG. That's how much the natural medicines database is really powerful. And for those of you that haven't heard of it, like Cheyenne was saying, if you join AFDNP, it's reason number 596 to join. You do get a membership to that database, but it's almost like drugs.com, which is where you're going to look at these supplement or drug interactions. Imagine that with a functional mindset, a functional lens, where you can actually look at supplement interactions with pharmaceuticals, supplements with other supplements. You can also see what nutrient deficiencies pharmaceuticals or supplements may bring with them. So then, if you have a client that you can't figure out why they have a B12 deficiency, but then you found out the prescriptions they're taking cause that, or the combination of the supplements and medication is contributing to that. So it can really be an added tool to your toolbox to really figure out more of how supplements are interacting, how what kind of effect they could have. And then if you do like to nerd out on the whole clinical like medical journal component, it also gives you resources to say, we found this to be the case with a study that was done on 1,000 people, or this was a peer-reviewed journal on 50,000 people, so you get to see the science behind it, not just these supplements don't work well together. You actually get to learn why. And because your time in FDN as a trainee is very limited in the grand scheme of your entire career in this, there's only so much we can go over in regards to supplements. Supplements are going to be one of those components that you do start to learn with experience. You do start to learn by diving into the resources and the toolbox that you have to start figuring out more about the ingredients, the formulas, the brands, and things like that. Any more questions?
There are more questions in the chat. So Tamara is asking if you have like a high salivary secreted IgA, would the biocidin, the throat spray, gonna be helpful?
And that's what we were talking about it being a modulator. It can increase or decrease something based off what the body needs. So because it has that modulating effect, it would be helpful because it could calm it down to where it has better decision-making skills. And I say decision-making as in figuring out who's good and who's bad.
Another question from Gina, and this is not necessarily related to immune, but she's asking, are there major difference between the berberine HCl and this dihydroberberine? What's the maximum length of time for taking berberine? I I mean, the only thing I know that the difference between these two, they're saying the dihydroberberine is better, has a better bioavailability, is better absorbed by the body. But I don't have a lot of information on that. I think in most of the supplements, we still see berberine HCl more frequently. I don't have a lot of information on the dihydroberberine. But regarding the maximum length, also that's actually my question as well, because I know a lot of people use the berberine for the blood sugar control, but I'm not just so sure how much impact that going to have on the gut microbiome. So I don't have a direct answer on that, but that's actually a concern I have. And I don't know, Kurt and Christina, if you have any insights on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you stepped in for that one because I didn't know how to answer the berberine question.
Yeah, I just know that the dehydro is a little bit more available. You don't have to take as high of a dosage to usually get the same benefits as you get from berberine HCl, but I also don't think it's as commonly found in most products. Most products are going to stick with that traditional berberine, at least right now.
See, that's why as the supplement squad, we make such a great team because we don't know everything, but when we put our heads together, we can get these questions answered. Great questions, everyone. Any more questions?
Another question from Jackie. For how long would you recommend taking CoQ10 and vitamin C max for? So maximum, how long we would recommend to take a CoQ10 and vitamin C? I think this is still like really bio individual, and the say if someone is taking the Lipitor, and we know that gonna kind of inhibit the body's capability to produce CoQ10. So in that case, I probably will keep the client on the CoQ10 for long term, because your body doesn't have the capability to produce that, and that is very important antioxidant for your mitochondria. So in that case, I probably will take it for long term. And I think in these two, I mean, CoQ10, vitamin C, I'm not aware of any contradiction of taking that for long term.
The only thing that I could think of is bio-individuality is the big takeaway, right? And we keep saying that with everything with these supplements. You know, the vitamin C, if you were taking it in a high dose, you're going to see a more short-term impact, especially if you're seeing loose stools from it, right? If you're seeing loose stools because you're taking high dose, you don't want loose stools every day, right? That's going to be inconvenience for our clients. But something like CoQ10, as well as something like fish oil, for example, those are going to be more of a cumulative effect. They're going to take time to really start working. You're not going to have any benefit from CoQ10 because you took it for 4 or 5 days, right? You're going to want to take that for a continuous, lengthier amount of time. Vitamin C, you might relieve constipation in 2 days of taking it and 1 day of taking it, right? So to answer that question, bio-individuality is the big takeaway, but the other is one could create more of an acute response that or short-term response. The other, could take a while, right? You could use fish oil to help effectively lower blood pressure by indirectly taking out inflammation of the arterial walls, but that's going to take 6 or 8 months before that happens. It's not going to be, a 30-day bottle that's going to find it. So I think it also comes down to what the product is that you're taking, what the intended purpose is for taking it can help determine that.
There is a question about the mushroom drinks. Do we want to recommend that for autoimmune clients?
If you're talking about mushroom drinks, my mind goes to like mushroom coffees and things like that. I think it comes down to there's a risk to benefit with it, and Cheyenne, Christina chime in as well. But for me, I get really bad heart palpitations if I drink coffee. I love coffee. I love black coffee, but I'm forced to have decaf coffee in the mornings if I'm going to have coffee. Well, where's the fun in that, right? I'm just doing it for the flavor at that point and not for the energy. But mushroom coffee, also if I drink coffee for a few days, I get gastritis really bad and it irritates my stomach lining. So, and mushroom drinks, the mushroom coffee has been great solutions for me and my clients because you don't get the gastritis. You do get a little bit of an energy boost with it. You do get an immune component to it or immune boosting component. I don't know of it being too stimulatory for autoimmune. Cheyenne, Christina, do you have any insight on that?
It's usually a healing. Mushrooms are pretty healing. It's usually recommended for a lot of health benefits. It's usually recommended quite often for women as well. So I haven't heard any counter challenges. I suppose there's always the one in the crowd, right?
Yeah.
That's always going to be one. But generally speaking, it's a benefit. You get to have coffee. It's certainly not the same as black coffee. However, it's we can make it work, and it has got healing benefits to it. So it
Yeah.
can be beneficial.
And there are some better than others. On a side note about that, it tastes to me like you put potting soil in hot water. And then there's ones like Everyday Dose, which I found is a really good mushroom coffee alternative because it does put a tiny bit of coffee in there. There is some caffeine in it as well, not enough to make me feel like I'm having a heart attack, but enough to give you that sustained energy because of the mushrooms. But they also add collagen in with Everyday Dose, so it helps prevent that, kind of mitigate that gastritis that regular coffee, would give me. So I can have my cake and eat it too, or in this case, mushrooms.
Um, but I think there's like a good point so from Parker. So she's saying if the mushroom gonna be okay for people with candida overgrowth or mold toxicity. I think I mean that's my opinion, but basically in that case, I probably would want to avoid for a period of time, if you are doing this candida overgrowth, candida particle, or you're trying to address the mold toxicity, I probably want to avoid that. I mean, what do you think, Curry and Christina?
Um, there's a lot of debate when it comes to mold toxicity and stuff like that. And what I found is a lot of this, because it is such a hot topic, a lot of these manufacturers are taking that added process to or making that added disclaimer to their products that they're making to say that they've been tested for mold and things like that. So I would check with the manufacturer, check what kind of claims that they're making, what kind of uh labeling that they have. But it's going to be a risk of exposure to mold, especially if you're significantly or trying to detox a significant amount of mold.
Another question from Kira, and I guess we will come to that question probably better, next time. And she's asking how we decide between the different probiotic on the 90-day protocol. So next time we will talk about digestion, and we can have and because that could be a long discussion. So if you're
All right, looks like they cut me abruptly there. Oh no! How embarrassing. I forgot to turn my lights back on. Now you guys can definitely tell my background's virtual. If you were on in the beginning, we were joking about that, but I just blew my cover completely. There we go. Got to reset. All right. So that was our supplement squad. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that. There was a lot of activity in the chat. Want to make sure I get to all of this here. So another thing to note really quick, if you did tune on a little bit late, or tune in a little bit late rather, is we will be on this exact same stream per the little ticker below. We will be on this exact same stream for Bria, Gadd. I'm going to get to some questions right now. If it takes enough time, then we'll just transition right in. If we don't have enough questions, then what I will do is just do a little intermission. It'll be very clear for you guys, and then we'll hop back on with Bria when she is here. So hopefully we have enough of a conversation. And let me know, please, in the chat. I'm never looking for just hype up for the sake of being hyped up. I actually want to know, because this helps us for future events. Did you guys find this useful today? Some comments already indicated that to me, but there's a lot more on than there are comments. So if you guys could let me know, was this useful today? Did this give you a new perspective? Because this helps us decide what to show in future events. So I'd really appreciate it. Okay, let's go with the question, the first one that came in that I promised to answer at the end. So thank you for your patience, Haley. Awesome question here, something I'm very passionate about. Here we go. All right. Wow, I'm like completely blocking myself at this point with how much I have going on. I think I'm going to have to turn that ticker off. So give me 1 second here. Can't even see me anymore. There we go. A little bit better, I guess. All right. I'm late to the stream, but I have a question about supplements and acne. How do you know if a supplement might cause acne? Okay. So I have not said this, I don't think, this week at all. So for those of you just meeting me for the first time, you wouldn't even know this. But I did have 7 different diagnosed health conditions at the age of 18. I never normally share exactly what they are. It's not a secret. I just don't list them all off. So let me see if I can get them all offhand. I'll start with the physical stuff. Cystic acne, severe cystic acne, like probably one of the worst cases you've seen in person. Chronic sinusitis, GERD, Meniere's disease, which, by the way, I was told was incurable. I don't have the symptoms anymore. So I'm either in the longest remission that's ever existed, or I don't know. What do I know? I'm not a doctor. And then 3 mental health conditions: generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and major depressive disorder. So that's all the stuff I had going on, but one of them was severe cystic acne. So I feel like I'm a great person to ask this to. How would I know if a supplement is going to cause acne? Okay, good question. So let's go a step further. How would I know if anything's going to cause acne? What's the cause of acne to begin with? Well, if that was so easy, then everyone wouldn't have acne that has it. So this is multifactorial. And I'm someone who has spent an embarrassing amount of time studying acne just for this exact reason. So I don't know that I believe fully in like the different types of acne per se. Some people will say fungal, hormonal. I'm not even saying that that doesn't exist. I just don't look at it that way, because I think if someone is sick enough that they have fungal acne, then there's definitely issues with hormones. I think if they have issues with hormones so severe that they have cysts all over their face, well, their gut's probably not doing great, even if it's not just a fungi issue. So again, how would we know which supplement is going to cause acne? Well, if we change the lens that we look at acne through, so if we stop looking at it as a skin issue and look at it as an issue of possibly detoxification, hormonal issues, bacterial issues. So again, I'm not saying bacterial acne, hormonal acne, but if we look at those things as contributing factors to what might cause acne, then we can take that a step further and say, all right, well, if this supplement affects XYZ thing, then it might be subject to making my acne worse. So let me give you a direct answer and give you some really common ones. If I have someone in front of me, and this was definitely true for me, if I have someone in front of me that has severe acne and I haven't done a gut test with them, I could pretty much guarantee that their gut's going to be a mess. There's really no secret there. So let's say I gave them a supplement like Biocidin. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Biocidin, it's by Biobotanicals. Well, actually, I forget which way it went. I think Cellcore just bought out Biocidin. So I guess that's under Cellcore now if they're still labeling it that way. So Biocidin, great supplement for killing off pathogens, and it can actually affect fungi as well, and even parasites. So really kind of broad spectrum. But it's killing stuff off. So that could be something that would be subject to making one's acne worse. Why? All the ingredients in Biocidin are great. Why would that make acne worse? Because what I might be doing is increasing that toxic load temporarily, and then it has to go somewhere. So people forget our largest primary detoxification organ is going to be our liver. But our largest detoxification organ in general is our skin. Now, this is a loose way of wording it, right? This is not something I'm going to go to Harvard Medical School and start preaching in this exact way, but this is a good way to think about it from the functional perspective, in my opinion. It's been useful to me. If you look at that liver, as a primary detoxification organ. And then we think about the secondary ones as being mucous membranes, the skin. Well, then it would hold up that if our liver is backed up, so to speak, for lack of better words, then our body, to keep us safe so that we don't get poisoned, has to find ulterior routes for our toxins to get disposed of in. So that's why you see a lot of people. Notice how I said I had chronic sinusitis too. So I had chronic sinusitis at the same time I had cystic acne, and when one got better, the other got better. I'm not saying there was one root cause for that, but I am saying that my body was overloaded. And so since it's overloaded, it has to go somewhere. Now, based on your genetics, that might be eczema for some person. That might be acne for another person. That might be asthma for one person. It might be chronic sinusitis for another. So the genetics will play into this, because some people could be sick as can be and they'll never get cystic acne. Right? We all can think of someone that is like, how the heck are you even alive right now, man, with what you're eating, what you're doing? Their skin's perfect. So there is a genetic component to it, obviously. But that's going to be one thing. Anything that's going to temporarily increase that toxic load, Haley, by killing off things, whether it be bacteria, parasites, or fungi, that would be something I'd, in general, be a little bit concerned about in terms of its potential to increase acne. What else? Anything that's going to mess with hormones. So for a lot of people that have acne, this isn't always the case, but for a lot of people that have acne, they have overactive sebaceous glands, right? They produce more sebum in their or out of their sebaceous glands than the average person. That's why they get oily skin. So for me, I'm actually someone who is subject to this. I'm even still slightly subject to this. And it sucks because when those sebaceous glands are overactive for many years in your life, it kind of makes the pores significantly larger because the stuff has to go out through that. And as far as we know, unless you do certain cosmetic treatments, there's really not much you can do about that. So I'm not trying to embarrass myself here, but the reality is I have like super large pores on my nose still to this day. So anything that could influence hormones has at least a potential to make that acne worse. Okay, because if I'm going to start messing with that, that could increase the output of the sebaceous glands, which could mean that the bacteria can bind to the sebum. That can lead to acne for some people. So that's going to be one thing. And this is a very broad one. I would say, somewhat ironically, almost anything that is going to help your body be more efficient could temporarily, excuse me, make you more prone to acne. Now, you're saying, why the heck would that makes me more prone to acne by having my body more efficient? Well, remember, if we're thinking about the skin as a detoxification organ, which it largely is, it's also protective. Then if my cells have been malnourished and all of a sudden I take a super high potency multivitamin and everything's like fire and now I'm doing great, or I've been low on minerals and now I take a very high quality mineral supplement. Well, if the cells are working better, what are they going to do? They're going to push more stuff out faster. And there might be a temporary period where I have some excess acne as a result. Now, is there anything that we can do about this? Are there supplements that are generally supportive of acne? So this is not medical advice. I'm not telling you guys to take these things, but I would encourage you to at least look into them. So this topic came up today, Mega IgG 2000. The brand name for those immunoglobulins, it's under Microbiome Lab. Someone said that they hadn't even heard about that before. Super glad that you got to. That's a great supplement. So those immunoglobulins are going to bind to toxins. They're going to bind to things that are causing your body issues. And what's great about immunoglobulins is they don't adsorb like a charcoal would. They do not adsorb, A-D, not A-B, adsorb. So A-B, absorb, is a chemical reaction, right? That's like you throw salt into water and all of a sudden you don't have the same salt anymore, right? It goes into the water. So that's absorbing. Adsorbing means that these things don't necessarily discriminate. It's not necessarily mixing in. It's just going to take in everything. So that's why charcoal is such a powerful thing in filters. Charcoal can be used even to this day in certain cases of alcohol poisoning because it doesn't care. It doesn't discriminate. It will bind everything to it. So that's great for cleaning up some toxins, but also if you took medications, if you took supplements, it can bind to nutrients. If you do that long term, it could lead to nutrient deficiencies. So that's kind of an issue there. But you have something like the immunoglobulins, that's going to be great for cleaning up the bad stuff while also sparing some of the good stuff. Whereas like the second category here would be a charcoal, would be a zeolite clay. The my gosh, there's another one off the top of my head I'm not thinking of. Sorry. Anything in like GI detox, also by biobotanicals by coincidence. That is great. GI detox is definitely going to help maybe clear some stuff up temporarily, but we still have not gotten to the root of what's going on. So, full transparency, again, not medical advice, just a little Ev tip. When I was towards the end of my acne journey, so what I mean by that is I don't, thank God, have these huge cystic pimples anymore, but maybe I was getting a little breakout here or there. If I knew that I had, a party or an event or something that really mattered to me, I had to get photos, and I just wanted to look good, man. I just wanted to feel good in my own skin. We all want that, right? I would start supplementing before bed, or first thing in the morning. You just have to take it away from other things. I would start supplementing with activated charcoal with GI detox so that I would get a little bit of a break, or my system would get a little bit of a break for that week. This is an anecdote, but I found that did lead to a decrease in breakouts at that time. What else could help? So things that could support the liver. This was another little anecdote that I picked up along my acne journey. And again, this was when I was at the end of it. So I'm just getting some whiteheads, just getting some small stuff. I do not know that this would have even been noticeable in terms of its effectiveness if I had done this when I was at my worst and had severe cystic acne. Milk thistle, liver detox supplements. So there is one that I liked by Thorne. I think it's actually just called Liver Detox or Liver Detox Plus or something. That worked very well for helping me out with the last bit of whiteheads or whatever. And I'm doing something a bit more sustainable. Whereas like the charcoal and the zeolite clays and all that kind of stuff, that might be something that we don't know if you want to take that long term. That's not really been studied. But something like a milk thistle is probably a little bit safer long term and helping the body kind of move itself along. So very long-winded answer, but again, it's either that or an intermission. And I wanted to make sure I gave you everything that I possibly could, Haley. So I'm sorry that some of that is not immediately useful either, because it's like, well, what's causing my specific acne? I don't know. I'd have to look at testing to see that. But anything that's going to kill off stuff, that's going to be one you're going to want to watch out for. Anything that's all of a sudden going to give your cells a bunch of extra nutrients if you've been depleted, I'm not saying that's a bad thing overall, but you do need to understand that there might be a temporary time where this waste is getting pushed out and it's leading to increased acne in the skin. Anything that's going to mess with hormones. Not that I'm considering what I'm about to say a supplement, but hormone replacement therapy, very common nowadays, for better or for worse. You start playing with that, I mean, good luck. If you're playing with DHEA, I mean, good luck. That all could contribute to this type of stuff. Oh, good. I'm glad you thought it was insightful. Then, if I may, I'll give you my last thing here. It's going to be very short because no one thinks about this. So right now, I'm under artificial lights. I have to do that for my job. I don't even mind doing that for my job. But I also know that I need to get the proper light most of the time. And I don't do 20 events in a week typically. That's not the norm for me at FDN. It happens often enough, but it's not the norm. So one thing that we know, and this is crazy, this is useful for everyone. This is not just acne right now. When you are under artificial blue lights like this, right, and it's hitting you, we know that it actually increases blood glucose. Why? Well, one of the reasons that we believe it increases blood glucose is because it raises cortisol. So this actually tells your body, hey, it's like middle of the day, man, we need to go, but it never stops. The flicker can also affect this. So your cortisol raises, blood glucose raises, okay? That's where and we actually know as a result, it can lead to increased sebum production. So if you're an acne sufferer, you might have noticed what I noticed. I noticed when I was outside all day, I didn't seem to get as oily a skin, which is crazy because you're told when you're younger, well, outside, that's all dirty. You're in the sun, you should be sweating more. I never found that I really had particularly oily skin if I was outside all day. I'm not saying it didn't happen at all. And certainly if I sweat, it becomes oily. But if I was just kind of doing my normal thing, I noticed it wasn't as bad versus I go into a highly artificially lit environment within a couple of hours. Especially at school, it was so embarrassing. My skin was so oily. Now that I'm older and I understand this stuff, I get it. What was I doing before school? I was eating a bagel with cream. I just woke up. I'd done no physical activity whatsoever. I'm eating a bagel with cream cheese. There's 70 carbs, spiking the blood glucose. I'm drinking down orange juice, another 40 grams of carbohydrates. So I'm at 110, 120 grams of carbs, spiking the heck out of the blood sugar. I'm barely woken up. And then I go sit under artificial lights and just, arms crossed, sedentary, and no wonder the skin was so oily. And you add to that teenage hormones, it's a recipe for disaster. So, hope you guys enjoyed that and got something from it. Let's go to some next questions here. I'm going to go back up. Excuse me for 1 second. All right, and Bria should be with us in just a moment, which is great. I did great killing some time. And I didn't lose any numbers. You guys are still on, so you must have enjoyed it to some degree, or you're just being very polite. This was just a good note here. I think it's worth saying. For those with MCAS, excipients can cause flares even in trace amounts. I mentioned this to consider this for those clients. Yes. And I had mentioned afterwards, we're really lucky. We have an active mentor in the course, Nicole Doobie, and she had dealt with MCAS. I don't consider that part lucky, obviously, but it is cool to have her because she was down to like 5 foods at one point. So she understands fully what it's like to be very restrictive on supplements, very restrictive on foods, and kind of how to work someone through that. But very good point here. Curated arts and vintage. All right, Holly had said, I was treating a Lyme co-infection and mold. IgG was a game changer. It worked as an excellent binder. Happy to see this discussed. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, again, not medical advice, I'm speaking from what I know, doesn't seem to be something that's a huge problem long-term to take. Seems to add on quite nicely. Might be able to help a lot of us who have been sicker long-term, or we're on long-term stretches of antibiotics and our guts all beaten up and depleted. Seems to be very useful. Okay. Since FDN is not supplement company loyal, correct? How do you vet and select new supplements? What do you look for? Good question, OB. So what we're going to look for is a couple of things. One is, are there any studies behind this? So believe it or not, and you might know this, OB, I'm speaking generally, right? We have a large audience. Some supplement companies, guys, actually are studying their formulas. Biobotanicals, I keep mentioning them, but it's probably because they're so great. Biobotanical formulas, they study all this stuff. They've actually shown that biocidin with antibiotics helps people with Lyme more. It actually is more effective when it's used together. Amazing. The woman who owned that, I guess she doesn't own it anymore since Cellcore bought it out, but that was Rachel Fresno, I want to say, naturopathic physician, super into the science, and she actually looks at what's happening there. So that's great. Another thing that we can consider is, what is the science behind the dosage of the ingredient? No one owns, I'm making something up, vitamin A, for example, right? No one owns vitamin A, but there are studies showing what certain dosages of that vitamin are going to do. Which leads me to my second point of this answer here. You said, how do we vet them? Well, one thing we're going to make sure is that there's proper third-party testing whenever possible. And this is very scary. I'll never forget my friend Brian. He actually went through FDN. He's not like a full-out practitioner, but he did go through the program and graduate. One of my best friends since we were kids, probably 7th grade. And brilliant guy, man. I like hanging around people smarter than me, but I didn't set out to meet him. I just absolutely brilliant dude. And he's a chemist. And when I first told, I always mess with my friends and my wife and stuff. I'm like a in real life troll, right? I'll leave a harmless prank for you and stuff. And I had told him that the FDA doesn't actually look at all the supplements and stuff. There's no approval process. And he thought I was doing one of my trolls on him. He thought I was tricking him. He's like, dude, shut up. Like, the FDA looks at supplements. I'm like, no, dude, that's not how it works. There's a certain process where they're kind of involved, but it's nothing anywhere near what medications do. And in theory, you could get away with it for a while, kind of throwing random stuff into a supplement. And, is that Bria in the background? Awesome. Hello, Bria. Welcome. We're just finishing up this session. They can't see you yet. Only I can see you. Can't hear you yet either, but we're going to bring you on right on the hour. So, guys, make sure you stay tuned, because in 3-4 minutes, we will get started on our case study here. But anyway, my buddy Brian, he didn't believe me. He could not believe me that they didn't even look into this stuff. So, do I want the FDA fully involved in supplements? I don't know. I'm speaking on behalf of Evan Transu. I don't know if that's a good thing one way or another. What would be important, though, I think we could all agree on this, is to test for purity, to test for safety, test to make sure there's not a bunch of heavy metals. So we're going to look for companies that are willing and do the third-party testing necessary to see what's going on for them. And for those that are new to this space, you're like, what's a third party? What? That means if I have a company and I'm manufacturing supplements, so my day-to-day is I'm working in the supplement company. The third party thing means that I can randomly get tested anytime per year. They're going to take, a batch of stuff, test it, and then that's going to look at the purity of the supplement, make sure that the ingredients that are in it are actually there, because that's another huge thing. So when I was mentioning the vitamin A, for example, and the scientific validity of vitamin A supplementation at certain dosages, well, that assumes that the dose that we're saying is actually in the supplement. This is, I don't want to ever seem like a negative or anything. I'm just trying to open up your eyes to the way that the world works. Even medications, by the way, folks, have a certain margin of error. So that means if I say that, this is the first one that comes to head because this is where I read about it first. Alprazolam, for example, Xanax, alprazolam's the generic. So that can have a margin of error. Well, that's a pretty potent little guy there. So depending on the margin of error that you're talking, you could get a slightly different effect to the user based on what brand that they got that day. So just something to think about with both medications and supplements. If you feel like, I swear when I get it from this pharmacy, it works a little better, that just might be accurate, just might be true. We'll get one more question here while we can. This is an awesome comment. Talisha, I cannot wait for you to be in the course. I really appreciate how nice you've been in our community. Like, you're the exact type of person we're looking for. If you did just tune in with us, welcome. We're ending another session. We're still going to be on this stream for Bria, our case study person next. And she will be with us in just a moment. She's in the back room. All right, Talisha said this is a great example of the value of this program. As much as I've kept up in this wellness space, today is the first I am hearing of IgG 2000. Incredible. Yes. Awesome. We're trying to bring you guys the best of the best stuff. And quite frankly, a supplement like that used long term can be a pretty notable difference in someone's life, right? We know that it helps heal and seal the gut. We know that it helps bind some of the toxins that are found in today's world without the nutrient deficiencies. Kind of cool, man. Really nice, actually, especially if you go through FDN and you find someone had super low secretory IgA on their GI map. This is a very poor way to say it, and some medical professional would slap me probably for saying this way. But you can almost kind of not replace, but you can kind of use some of those supplements to help out with that frontline immune defense temporarily while you help the person rebuild the body. So if they're getting sick all the time, catching colds every month, that can be a great way to help in the process of preventing that while you get them better. All right, real last question then. So a modulator is another name for an adaptogen, right? And then, Holly commented on this, and that was a great comment, Holly. So a modulator is actually a really broad term. It's a good question, but it is technically a broad term. This could refer to almost anything supplement-wise that is going to change something in your biology, something in a chemical process. So you can imagine how many things that could lead to. You could argue that vitamins are modulators. You could argue that many adaptogens are modulators. Absolutely. And then you're going to have your little subcategories with immunomodulation and things like that. So good question. It's a very broad term. I think Kurt, if I remember correctly, was using it for something specific, but the reality is that term is used very broadly. Who's ready for a case study? And Bria, I don't want you to think that they're not ready when you come in, but there's a 30 to 60 second delay on here, and we've already been streaming for an hour and change. So let us know who is ready to meet Bria and get this case study going. A lot of people said this was useful, which is great. Super excited. I use Cellcore Biotoxin Binder. Are you familiar with that? Yes, I certainly am familiar with it. And almost all of our FDNs love it. I can't think of anyone who doesn't love it. So very familiar with that. Let me end this chat here. And I'm going to remove our video from before. Look at me actually looking like I know what I'm doing. And without further ado, we will bring Bria in. So you're going to be on video in just a second. Just letting you know. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. And let's not make you small. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I am doing awesome. I'm really glad to see you again. So guys, this all happened because I have no problem saying this. I don't think anyone would take offense that hasn't been told this. Bria is one of, I'm going to hype you up immediately. Bria is one of like 3 or 4 people ever in 460 something episodes of our podcast that I was like, okay, are you doing speaking stuff yet? And she's like, oh, yeah, like I'd like to do that. Not really. I'm like, no, you need to go do this. And so she is a phenomenal presenter, great energy, very similar to our friend, in my opinion, Sarah Ball yesterday, just in terms of the passion that they bring to the camera and their stuff. So you guys are going to love her here. And then I hadn't talked to her in a while just because you know how it is, Bria. We have a huge community. Yeah. It's not like we all get to chat all the time. And then you were asking for the affiliate swipe copy. And I'm like, oh, Eureka. I'm like, do you want to speak? Because you're great. So she was very nice to do this relatively last second for us, or close to last second. The case studies are one of the bigger asks of people when they're speaking here. You got to put all that together. We can give you the slides, but we can't give you the case and the thought process for it. So I am just so glad that you were here with us. And thank you for being willing to do it with us.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm a huge lover of FDN. It just fundamentally changed how I help people, how I help myself. It changed my business, so how I make money. And it's, I'm really happy to talk about it to anyone. And I'm very excited to share a case study today.
Cool. And they're used to my ad lib for several minutes. So I just want to give us like 1 or 2 more minutes before we start so that everyone gets in for the beginning of it. So can I just ask really quick for those that don't know you, what's your brand? I've said your brand a million times. It's not that I think your brand is funny. It's that as a 30-year-old male, I'm immature and I can't say it out loud without kind of blushing. So I will let you share that. And then what were you doing before FDN and all this health stuff? I'd love to know that too.
Yeah. So I am known as the Period Whisperer. And I run a podcast that is called The Period Whisperer. And that is really, I kind of think of it as a Trojan horse. Like people come to me in perimenopause because their periods are wonky or they don't feel the best. And really what we dig into is all this metabolic chaos, this deeper work that kind of happens. So, but the goal of it and the brand is really to help women listen to the messages of their body. And our periods are one of those ways we can do that. So before this, I have been a holistic health coach, an integrative nutritionist, and a personal trainer for years and years. So for years, I really focused on, helping women with nutrition and fitness. And so it was really, ironically, it's been 2 years since this Black Friday 2 years ago when I joined FDN, and I was like, oh, it's just changed the game for me. I had no idea
It's only been 2 years.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
And everything's just exploded for me. It's been amazing. It's been so amazing to work with women on this level and see the results we get for them. It's awesome.
Cool. And yeah, I think you still know me well enough from before that, like, I'm just being funny. But so my dad, he is traditional dad. He's not unemotional. He's gotten better as he's older, but kind of just, you shut up, you go to work. I watched the dude work 7 days a week from the time I was born, landscaping, cigarettes, just like tough guy. I mean, calluses everywhere. And I think he's been amazed to watch, because that's hard. Yeah, that's about as tough as you can get. That's like construction. You're just beating your body up for decades.
Yeah.
And then he watches me, his son, who I'm sure he had aspirations for to work outside or do something like that. And I'm on this damn computer upstairs in his house, not now anymore, but at the time, like making good money, figuring things out. And he's just like, what does this kid do? And I can only imagine him finally tuning into one of these things and turning it on. And I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to interview the Period Whisperer next. Like that. He's just like smoking his cigarette. Like, what the hell, Ev?
What is going on?
So I'm just being funny. And all jokes aside, I poke at my dad just because it's funny and he's a fun character in all of this. The reality is he's like the most supportive person for my mom and I. He will sit there, cook the gluten-free, make sure no pans have gluten so that my mom is healthy, good to go. I think I'm going to have an awkward Thanksgiving when I go home because we have an avocado mattress down here we just got. And now, listen, we got the king size one without the topper. I'm not saying it was cheap, but, it's a mattress you're going to have for the rest of your life. Fine. Now, the problem is every time my mom visits us, there's a joke that there's another $1,000 purchase. So she calls me up, Ev, we got the avocado coming in. I got the topper. I'm like, oh, how much was that? She's,
a lot.
Above 3, less than $4,000. And this man, he is still so open to all of these things is my point. Like, I feel like, again, we can't hang out without spending $1,000 on something natural. So he will go cook her gluten-free, set up the avocado mattress with a smile on his face, and then head to the porch to smoke his cigarette. So I can't ask for better than that. That's about that's fair, man.
That's his soul, we say.
All right. So super glad to have you guys here. I have realized based on when you guys said hello, so as we stream longer, the delay gets worse. I don't want to put that on you, Bria. I don't know if you're a presenter that tells people to answer things in the chat. If you were to, just understand, and I'm sorry about this, we are probably operating with about a full 2-minute delay. So that's what would be happening there. Now, what we'll need to do next, and sorry, I want to say hello. Nitty is in the chat. She's not going to be on video with us up front, but if you guys have any questions as we go along, Nitty will be in the chat. And if you are tuning in for the first time, you're in the end of week 2 of 3 weeks for our Discovery Series here at FDN. So you joined, you said, during Black Friday 2 years ago?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Well, then you're going to be kind of jealous. So we actually have the biggest Black Friday sale happening right now. It's $2,000 off the FDN course. It's probably $1,000 2 years ago. And technically, if you pay in full, it can be up to $3,500 off. So we are doing this Discovery Series just to show you guys FDN. And I'm sorry for those that have been on every session. You already know my spiel with this, but we believe that what we have is something that people are looking for. I mean, Bria even just said this. Yeah. You were doing this health thing. You had a career in this, and then you came on, and the results that you're able to get are better. So our marketing strategy is this. let's just show people what we do for free. It's kind of a nice way to do it. And if you decide that you want to join this and be a part of us, awesome. And if not, then great. You didn't have to pay for anything, and you could make an informed decision without having to invest in another course. Because what we don't want here is for people to be adding FDN as their 5th, 6th, 7th certification. And it's another one that they do that they're like, oh my gosh, like this didn't work for me either. So there's no reason it shouldn't work. You already know what you're getting into. $2,000 off until the end of the day on December 1st. It's already active. We're doing what every other company does nowadays, which is apparently start Black Friday at the end of October. It's kind of crazy. Like, remember when we were kids, Bria, and it was a day? And now it is something that lasts for an entire month. Kind of cool, but little crazy too. I get like 10 emails every 30 minutes.
I know.
So yes, we're going to move into the presentation here, but just wanted to let you guys know that you already know the sale. So if you'd like to talk to anyone on our course enrollment team, we'll drop a link below for you in the chat. There's no gimmicks there. They're all very consultative people. And again, you already know the sale. There's nothing else that they can tell you. So if you're not sure if this is a good fit for you still, hit us up there. We have a pack next week for you. Even on Thanksgiving, we'll actually have some of our Canadian workers still doing sessions for you. So God bless them, because I will not be on that day. And then December 1st, save the date, Monday, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern. Monday, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern. We have our closing keynote with Leah Brueggemann, and that is going to be lots of fun. So we'll see you guys then. All right, Bria. Now we will have to do the screen share thing on Restream here. So when you share, it'll come up on the back screen first, and then I will be able to bring it in. So if you want to share your slides, we'll get this going here.
Allow, where's my Canva? Oh, I got a lot. Is it search Canva? No, hang on. My presentation.
No worries.
Oh, found it.
Awesome. Okay, I will tell you when I see it. Perfect. Just came in for me, and I will share this now. All right, so we are still, let's go to full screen, make sure that works.
Yeah. Present full screen. How's that?
Perfect, Bria. What I do when someone's presenting is, remember, I'm just in the back room. I'm here with you 100% of the time. I remove myself to not be distracting, and so I can secretly eat and just take a break for a second. So you do your thing, and then the floor is yours. And guys, we will have time for Q&A after she is done. So good luck.
Awesome. And I'll probably just work that way, since we know we have the delay. We'll just keep it so that there's questions at the end, but ask your questions as we go for sure. And I will say, Evan, here's why I'm not jealous about the Black Friday sale, because FDN was the best decision I ever made for my business. So it was worth every penny I paid for and more. I will just put that shameless plug out for everyone, because it was a game changer. I'm just so grateful for it.
All right, I'll have Reed send you the check. I'm out of here.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, everyone. Well, I'm just beyond excited to be here with you guys today. I'm obsessed with what I get to do, and I'm so grateful that you're here, whether you're here just because you want to heal yourself, heal your family better, or whether you are interested in running this type of business or already running a similar business. I think that deeply understanding how to do these things, what we actually get to uncover and how we get to support people is really such a beautiful way to live your life, I think, if this kind of thing brings you purpose. So today we're going to talk about going from exhausted to cystic acne to clear and energized. This is one of my 46-year-old mom of 4 clients, how she got her spark back. We talked a little bit about me already, but real quick, just so you know who I am, I was telling Evan earlier, I've been an FDN for, well, I guess not certified for 2 years, but for 1.5 years. Before that, I was a certified holistic health coach, which I still have, and a personal trainer. My podcast, The Period Whisperer, is the top 1% wellness podcast in the world. I'm very, very proud of it. It's an amazing way that I've been able to reach a lot of women. Thanks to Evan, I'm now a speaker and a hormone expert for a top fitness company called V-Shred. So learning what I've learned through FDN has been a massive game changer for me, just in general, how I can impact people, how I can share the knowledge that I have. I'm a mom of 2 teens, a Canadian that lives in America, and a proud member of the LGBTQ community. But enough about me. So let's get into my client. I would say this is somewhat of a classic case for the women that I work with. I primarily work with women over 35, probably 35 to 60, that are kind of in this hormonally shifting time of perimenopause, which I think just unearths all the challenges. So this is my client, Sarah. She is 46 years old, mom of 4 boys, and they are close in age, like 10, 12, 13, 14. 4 boys all together. You can imagine the demands. If you even, I have 2 children and they're 3 years apart. So imagining 4 this tight in age is just kind of mind-boggling. She is on it. She's like type A personality, like has everything very solid because she has to. But she came to me with a lot of fatigue, cystic acne that was really hormone, like every month. Here it would come and then it would finally just go away, and here it would come again. Hair loss, breakage, and mood swings. These were kind of her key main complaints that she's like, Bria, I don't know what else to do here. I've been to the doctor. They say I'm fine. I'm losing it. She had to set 7 alarms in the morning to get out of bed. That's how exhausted she was. She was struggling with very heavy periods, with constipation and bloating, with increasing food sensitivities. Sometimes she just wouldn't eat because of her food sensitivities. Things like trouble concentrating. And then she was, I would say, I do work with a lot of women who want to lose weight. Sarah didn't necessarily need to lose weight, but she wasn't getting results from her workouts anymore. She was quite fit. And that's where I think when everything started to tumble out of control, she found anytime she worked out, trying to feel better about herself, she was just exhausted and irritable. Her key goals were to just feel like herself again, right? Have energy, be kind and present with her family again, and keep up with the demands of her life, and really be able to get back to feeling good in those workouts. She said to me, I thought this was so sweet. She's like, Bria, my husband even very gently sat me down and said, I've noticed on this day and this day of your cycle, every single month, you seem really unhappy. So we knew there was something bigger going on, and she just didn't want to be that person. And I absolutely get that. Like suffering, trying to handle things at 46 when you have such a big schedule. I knew she could feel so much better, and so did she. A couple things I think is important to understand about her, and we'll dig a bit more deeply into this. She exercised daily, weight training and yoga. Like she, walked every day with her dog. She was very, again, I'd say organized with her life and her health. She was primarily vegetarian and already gluten-free since one of her sons was celiac. So that's what you need to know about Sarah. After hearing these things and spending time with her, I kind of had some suspicions. I'm thinking, knowing that she's having food sensitivity issues and that she's pretty hyper-focused on her health already, I was curious about how her fuel mixture and her caloric needs were working for her. So I'm thinking, okay, we need to look into that nutrition, which we always have to in this case. With hearing that she was having digestive issues, constipation and bloating, and that cystic acne, I immediately thought, oof, what's going on with detoxification, right? What's not getting out of her body, when we already know if we're not having a daily bowel movement, that's a pretty key indicator. So how is the liver and the gut looking is what I'm thinking. And that fatigue, right? That overall fatigue and exhaustion that we get, that for me in my client base can be pretty indicative of adrenal health and needs. So and just overall mineral deficiencies for people in midlife who've been very busy and overproductive for a long time. These are really common things that pop up. But based on what she was saying to me and what I learned from her metabolic scorecard, like her intake forms, I really thought, something's going on in one of these areas. That's what was kind of popping up to me first. But of course, I really love the part of FDN I love the most is really learning how to connect the dots with the labs. So for me, I would say these 4 tests are really the foundational tests I run on all of my clients, since I have a pretty niche market. And then sometimes we do more advanced things based on it. But one of the biggest things I fell in love with going through the FDN course was metabolic typing. It's a way that we can understand nutrition for the individual needs of people. For me, metabolic typing explained why I would have some clients who could be eat a ketogenic diet, like really high protein and high fat, and just thrive and crush it, while others, like myself, if I try to eat ketogenic, I feel pretty nauseous. Or why some people are plant-based and look glowy and wonderful, and while others look sick. I'm sure you know people like this, or maybe you've been one of these people on these extremes. So metabolic typing is something I always do for my clients to understand which way do they lean. What is the rate that their genes, their cells genetically turn food into fuel? Is it slow? Is it fast? Is it somewhere in the middle? And that's one of my favorite things that we learn here at FDN. I also wanted to run a GI map so we could really understand what's going on in that gut. I thought, and like had that suspicion, basically for already knowing the cystic acne, knowing the constipation, the bloating. Okay, right away, we know there's some detoxification issues. So I want to know what's going on in that gut. I classically run a Dutch panel for my clients, which helps us deeply look at sex hormones, but adrenal hormones and their metabolization. How are they clearing and moving and getting out of the body? So again, with the cystic acne, with knowing her age, with the heavy periods, I wanted to get a good look at that Dutch. And finally, for my US clients, I typically run blood chemistry. For my Canadian clients, because I am Canadian, or my clients around the world, which is one thing I will say I love about FDN is our opportunity to work with people anywhere. I've had clients in Norway, in Switzerland, in the UK, I've had clients in Australia, New Zealand, and then plenty in Canada and the US. So it's such a powerful thing. But for my clients outside of the US, I'll run an HTMA, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis. But on the blood chemistry for me, when I'm thinking about detoxification, when I'm thinking about how much this woman has been through, having 4 children, being 46, going through perimenopause, I like to use blood chemistry to kind of look more deeply at liver enzymes, look at methylation a little bit in the gut, and really look at the full thyroid picture, which again can be a really common thing for women to have some thyroid conversion issues when we're wondering about how liver congestion is going. And then of course, minerals. So that's what I was looking for. And I thought, this is what we're going to run. Now, the first test, she came back. I didn't have the actual, we don't have the questions for the metabolic typing, but the metabolic typing test is an amazing questionnaire that my clients will take. And it helps us understand, are we a slow oxidizer, or are we a fast oxidizer, or are we somewhere in between? When you go through FDN, you're going to, really get a great grasp of what this means. But essentially a slow oxidizer, which is where she came up, means that her cells genetically turn food into fuel at a slower rate, which means we probably want to feed it faster burning fuel. And faster burning fuel is typically, a lower fat, higher carbohydrate diet, which is really more plant-based. And although she was eating a lot of plant-based, you can kind of see I've listed out here for you the approximate kind of ratios we look for in terms of our plate, what's on our plate in a slow oxidizer. We want to make sure we're getting that 25% protein, which again, for most people, I think is still 80 to 100 grams of protein a day, 15% fat, and 60% carbohydrates. But my client, Sarah, who, was gluten-free and primarily vegetarian, when we dug into her nutrition, was really eating a lot of cheese as her protein and drinking a lot of protein drinks, like protein waters. I hadn't even heard of protein waters until I met her. And so when we looked at her breakdown of her nutrition based on her needs and her metabolic type, she was actually eating a much higher fat, higher protein, lower carbohydrate, and lower fiber diet. And that wasn't working for her. So right away off the hop with her nutrition, when we did her metabolic typing, we knew that she needed to increase her fiber, decrease that dairy, especially when we're talking digestion, and the caffeine, which was a big one that came up for her as well. And just changing her fuel mixture in general to increase more fiber and complex carbohydrates automatically made a difference in her energy and her digestion right away. So that was a really nice win off the hop, we'll call it, for us. Now we actually started to get into her labs as her labs came back. We got her GI map back. So what I love about the GI map, and maybe you've heard this in the other case studies already, is that yes, we get to look for like parasites and pathogens, but I think so valuably, we get a really good look at the good and the bad bacteria. What is the overarching view of what's happening in your gut? And even more so, what's going on with just the overall inflammation and immune markers happening. So Sarah's results came back, and when we looked at the commensal bacteria, these good bacteria, right away, kind of taking a step back, you can see we've got a few okay in the middle, several trending low. We got one really, really high here, the Enterococcus, and then one of the keystone like phyla bacteria. So I like to say to my clients, these top 9, these ones make up about 10% of our gut, of the good bugs in our gut microbiome, or should. And then these two down here together make up about 90%. So if we can see one is low, I'm seeing some serious depletion, but we have some inflammation. So some definite dysbiosis right away, which means we're going to have issues breaking down and absorbing nutrients, especially when we see one of the keystone family or phylobacteria really low. When we come down into the opportunistic or not as ideal bacteria, we can see, she's got one that's quite elevated, her Pseudomonas. So we know there's kind of some extra toxins happening. We know digestion is compromised already. And this starts to correlate to some of her symptoms. Well, she isn't breaking things down properly, so she's obviously not absorbing them. That's where some of this digestion is going to come from. That's where fatigue can really come from. And certainly, where constipation can start to come from. Now with Sarah specifically, we uncovered a parasite. So we had the Dientamoeba fragilis come up, and that was unexpected, but there it was. And it allowed us to really make sure, okay, we can consider this in our plan to get it out. And then in the inflammatory markers, or in the kind of intestinal health markers, we saw, okay, she is breaking down her fats. Okay, that's what we see with the steatocrit. Her elastase, I would say this is a measurement of how our pancreas is doing with, creating the enzymes and stomach acid to break down our food further. And I would say it might be starting to look a little tired. We can kind of see it creep down here a little. So potentially it's some more digestive compromise or some spillover from the body not digesting on its own. But here was a big one that was really noticeable for me. Her beta-glucuronidase, which is a really key measurement, I think, for liver congestion. It's elevated when we've got a lot of dysbiosis, and when it elevates, it's going to undo the work of the liver's detoxification of our hormones. So when I see this one up and elevated, I don't like to see that above 1800. I know that estrogen especially is recirculating in her body. And there we go. I'm thinking, oh, there's some of that cystic acne again coming right off the hop. We see the liver is likely looking a bit congested. We'll get a look at the other labs to kind of confirm, but we know we have an opportunity right here to support her liver, to support her gut. Huge opportunities. And then, of course, as you go down, we can see her SIG-A. This is her, I always think of SIG-A as the bouncer to the club of our immune system. And we can see that it's looking very, very low. I always want to see this up around 1500. So for me, when I step back and think about our immune system, if your SIG-A is low, that means the body, it's almost like having too many tabs open on your computer or your phone all the time. It's like just grinding away because things are getting in to the bloodstream that shouldn't be, because that bouncer is tired. And all of a sudden we're just draining and draining and draining in the background. And what was one of her biggest complaints? Fatigue. So fatigue, exhaustion, digestive issues, constipation, cyclical acne or cystic acne cyclically, and heavy periods. I mean, we can start to tie clues to each of her main complaints right here in that GI map, which was really helpful. Moving on to her Dutch. What I love about the Dutch is, as I said, we're getting a nice good look. We can actually see her key sex hormones were quite balanced, which is so interesting. But we already know, even though her sex hormones are balanced, that beta-glucuronidase is up. We know the gut is recirculating those hormones back up to the liver. So I right away can start to isolate, there's some challenges in that liver, just as I'd suspected. We can see even further on here that her cortisol clearance is not working. So her free cortisol, the available cortisol for her kind of daily needs, was there and looking pretty good. But you can see on this little bar, it's really, really low. The metabolized cortisol, so which is typically a conversion issue, pointing to sluggish thyroid, pointing to some liver support needed. So there we have already got kind of two things pointing at the liver, plus she's got a parasite and some dysbiosis. So her poor liver is doing double duty here. And we know, right, there's that detoxification. We could see her methylation was good. So the hormones that made it down into her gut, if they weren't undone, they were getting out okay. So methylation was looking all right. And the pathway that her liver was metabolizing the estrogen was a safe pathway. So we can kind of see that over here. So we knew, okay, We definitely need some liver support. She doesn't need hormones. Her sex hormones are looking quite good. Even though her testosterone is a little off here, we can see the other markers are on, and I can confirm it in her blood chemistry. So I think this was just a wonky result on her test there. But we knew, and even I'd say her DHEA was starting to look a little low. So we knew that kind of this impact of what had been going on in her gut and liver has now been starting to trickle down and impact her adrenal hormones. We weren't clearing it properly. So we're starting to see this story take shape with Sarah where, okay, we knew we weren't eating enough. We were certainly not getting the nutrients enough out of her food. We weren't eating right for her type. And then we weren't even getting the nutrients out of her food with her gut. We have all these stressors in there that are taxing her liver. And now that's trickling down into the other parts of her body. I actually get really excited about labs. Now, I won't go through her entire blood chemistry. I just wanted to highlight, I think, the things that really popped up that for me really confirmed and helped me understand, kind of the depth of what we were struggling with. So I looked at her liver enzymes after knowing we had some key markers for liver congestion, and they were off a little bit. The alkaline phosphatase was off, the AST is borderline low, and the ALT was quite low. So I knew, again, there's that confirmation that we really need that liver support. In the thyroid, we could see that her T4, her T3, and her free T4, these were all a little low. And again, when we think about thyroid conversion, we learn that a lot of that conversion happens in the liver, and we need the right minerals to support that thyroid. So this is where we really learn in FDN how everything is really connected together and why things start to kind of slowly tick off like a bad domino direction, right? I can see their free T3 is quite low. Her reverse T3 is starting to creep up, which is a common pattern when we're either under eating or undernourished. I think she was a little bit of both, but we were able to start to improve that. And the final marker I think really drove this home on the blood chemistry was her vitamin D being quite low at 48.9. I'd want to see that above 60. So we can start to see the story, minerals, we're not getting the minerals because our absorption is off. Now that's really impacting the thyroid. Our conversion is off because the liver is congested and the thyroid is off, and it's impacting our adrenals. And now it's showing up in the message of, in a way, these heavy periods. This is what she had started to notice, not getting results, because now we have a body that's in what I like to call, metabolic chaos is what we're trained in with FDN, and I love, but I also like to think of it like health debt. Suddenly, the energy supply to her body was not meeting the energy demands. And she's a mom of 4 at 46. She's got big demands. So how did we start to unwind these things? And again, really key areas, I think ultimately my suspicions my little picture didn't show up. It's too bad. I think it was a big check mark. My suspicions really turned out fairly accurate. And I think that's one of the beautiful things we learn at FDN, right? We learn that really the labs are so important to help cover healing opportunities, but it's so important to be able to connect them and correlate them to what our client is going through so that they make sense to us and so that they matter to them. So we knew that her fuel mixture was off and her caloric needs weren't on. We definitely got confirmation through the labs that there were detoxification issues, and I'd say even more so the liver than the gut. And that her adrenal health was not working. So we saw that metabolized and free cortisol looking in the opposite directions. They weren't clearing. And then we saw some mineral deficiencies with her vitamin D being low. So what was our plan? How did we come back from all of this? I already talked a little bit about her nutrition, but at FDN, one of my favorite acronyms that they use is DRESS: diet, rest, exercise, stress management, and supplements. And I'd already, in my life before I got into FDN, I already primarily used diet, rest, exercise, stress management. Those were kind of the 4 pillars of health. And then the final S, supplementation, that can help us come back when we see these labs, was the S that I really learned here as well. But the biggest movements we started to make in her nutrition, like I said, we wanted to remove those inflammatory foods. She was already gluten-free. She rarely drank alcohol or ate sugar because she was quite nutrition and health minded, but she didn't realize how much that dairy was causing inflammation in her already dysbiotic gut. So being able to see that on there, I think was really helpful. And then she really cut back on that caffeine. And because we were able to get her eating more and feeling more sound, she had more energy throughout the day, which was awesome. And then we really prioritized, fiber from complex carbohydrates and whole foods. So moving away from the protein waters and into the real protein. But especially for her, we talked a lot about these cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Those types of vegetables are so helpful when it comes to helping the liver detox our hormones. And that's what we saw was happening for her. And of course, with my clients, because I work with a lot of people in fitness as well, when I see that the adrenals are wonky, I really find it important that we pull back from heavy fitness just temporarily for 30 to 60 days while we do some healing, but we're not cutting out movement. So we really prioritized hitting those 10,000 steps each day, yoga or hot yoga for some good detoxification, like getting that sweat on, but without pushing the body too hard. That was kind of like our diet, and I'd say rest, exercise, and stress management were really tied up in there. She's really busy, so we had to find ways to figure out what mattered most, which I really felt like was that nutrition. So the extra time she had was spent on nutrition. And then she used the walking and the yoga as kind of her rest, as her exercise, and as her stress management. We got a nice combo there. When we headed into kind of how do we correct this supplementation, I really like to do a phase-based protocol. So when I looked at everything she was going through, we knew there was detox, we knew we had this parasite, we knew the adrenals were up. We needed her to have more energy to also handle the removal of a parasite. So in phase 1, which was really 4 to 12 weeks, we really prioritized supporting the liver. I wanted a little bit of time to support the liver, support the thyroid, support the adrenals, and her minerals, just to try to give her a little bit more energy to kind of handle phase 2. So we looked at supplements like liver nutrients, which is really good overall liver support, milk thistle. We looked at TUDCA, which is awesome for kind of bile flow and stomach acid that we knew she was missing from her GI map. We looked at some adaptogens with some stress nutrients, and then definitely some calcium deglucarate to really help with that beta-glucuronidase that was elevating, really supporting that liver, and then some good liquid D3K2 to replace the low minerals. And after a few weeks, she already was noticing a little bit of difference. And then we were able to shift into phase 2, which was when we really prioritized the parasite elimination and healing and sealing the gut and just supporting her immune system. So some of the supplements I focused on in there with her is that we used Biocidin Remove to help kind of break that biofilm barrier and really bring in those awesome antimicrobials. We use Para-X by Biomatrix to get the parasite out of there. And then we use the Binder GI Detox. And then we use some enzymes, some Megaspore, some Mega IgG to really just support the gut with what it had been missing, bring that dysbiosis back into balance, and then really support that immune system. So after our time together, and I work with my clients for 6 months minimum, but we were, at this point, we were probably, pushing our 6 months, 5 months in, close to 6 months. What were her results? She reached out and she said, sorry, my spelling error there. I can't thank you enough. I seriously tell all of my friends that you brought me back to life. Like, those were her words. And I think, she did the work, right? Like, they do the work. They're the ones that have to do it. But I was just so grateful to be a part of that, to hear someone say that to me, that I feel like I feel like me again. And it was one of the best parts, I think, of doing the work that we do. But ultimately, when we went through kind of her symptoms, her symptom check on her metabolic scorecard, which is a great tool we learn in FDN, we saw that her digestion had completely regulated. Like, she was finally pooping every day for the first time in years, which I think is huge. Her energy improved. She sent me pictures of how for the first time, and she couldn't remember, she had an entire cycle without any acne. This is always this painful acne that was coming up around here. She had much lighter regulated periods, no PMS. So now I think her husband was much happier without a grumpy wife every month. Her hair started to grow and be strong again. Her mood really stabilized. And ultimately, she got her spark back. And just hearing her, as I said, hearing her say those things like that she felt that brought back to life, knowing she has 4 children. I mean, what an impact, right? What an impact for her to feel like her and be able to be present, be excited, be there, all through just deeper looking. And I'll tell you, one of the things I have noticed as an FDN who can look into this lab work now, I find they make people more compliant, because when you see on paper where things are at, that is in your body, it is pretty hard to lie to yourself anymore, right? It's pretty hard to say, oh, it's not a big deal if I do this. Well, yeah, it is a big deal if you do that. We can see it right here, black and white on paper. And I think for my clients, I really see it click for them a lot more when they do this kind of deep work. So thank you so much. I think I hit my 40-minute limit here, and I'm really excited to answer some questions for you. But I have just really enjoyed working with the clients that I've worked with. And this is one of many that I've been blessed to work with. And it was so exciting to see her results happen so smoothly.
Oh, you are way too good with the time. Thank you so much, Bria. So that leads for a good amount of Q&A. Guys, one, I hate the delay. This sucks. If we could get a thank you for Bria, that'd be great. But then 2, let's get the questions rolling here. I'll actually probably throw you some stuff because, again, it's going to take almost 2 minutes for them to actually hear that.
Let's do it.
Bria, you have no idea. You literally could not have had a better case study. I was kind of joking with them saying, I don't think we could have scripted this better. We were just sitting here before watching a session called Supplement Squad from the trainee side of things, right? So we're watching that on recording so that the people that are looking into the FDN course this month can figure out what do we offer, what do we not offer. Yeah. And the whole thing with immunoglobulins and low Sig-A came up. We were talking about acne, all these things. And it's not like that was the entire case study, but just to see that live afterwards, guys, that was not planned. That's just called lucky in the world of FDN. So glad we got to do that.
Glad. I'm so glad.
All right, let's get some questions for Bria going. Oh, good. Looks like delay is at least a little bit better now. This is just a beautiful comment. Well, that's mine. That's not the one I'm talking about. All right, Bria, I'm so excited to hear from you. I subscribe to your podcast. I've gone through my own healing journey of cystic acne and still finding ways to support my cycle. Looking forward to learning. So it's just very nice from the beginning. I thought that's cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
Exciting.
All right. And then this was kind of the same thing in the beginning while we wait. Super excited to hear from you. Literally have so many prospective clients dealing with hormonal imbalance symptoms and so many reaching out today. So ironic. Excited to finish FDN to help people. So Alexis, if I'm not mistaken, told us yesterday towards the end of her practical. So just about to finally get out there. And yet, listen, guys, I'm personally a big believer. You kind of follow. You don't have to do this. You can do whatever you want. But following a niche that you resonate with personally is smart, or maybe you have a story around whatever. But my gosh, man, it is so sad how, in a sense, there's really no shortage, or there's no, what am I trying to say here? There's no shortage of people, women in particular, who need support with this stuff. We have been poisoning ourselves from day one, at least in America and in many other westernized countries throughout the last 10, 20, 30 years. It has been science experiment time. Like my generation, right, when I was in the 1990s, it's like, oh yeah, here's some GMOs. We'll see what happens. Hope for the best, or let's start spraying glyphosate on everything. Hopefully that's okay. I still believe this, Bria. This is my opinion. So I grew up, now I know better. I grew up around a farm. So my parents, and of course, why would they know any better? They're thinking, jackpot. They got 3.5 acres, landscaper and waitress working their butts off. They buy this plot of land, build the house, and 3.5 acres is already very nice, especially for our folks that are more international, especially like the Europeans that I talk to. They're kind of amazed sometimes by how much land Americans have sometimes. I'm like, yeah, dude, I can go down the road in Austin, 10 minutes, not even, and people have 100-acre farms. It's nuts. So it's a very nice privilege, very cool. But the reason that they bought the property is because it's 3.5 acres surrounded completely by farms. So it gives you that illusion that we're here forever. And the only problem is it was corn. And so you and I both know that ain't organic corn back there. It's one of the most genetically modified crops in the entire United States of America. I think it's over 88% of corn is GMO. And
Yeah.
guys, the reason that they do that is often so that they can spray more
Yeah.
stuff on it. They can make these crops immune. Oh, okay. I thought I disappeared. There you're good. That's funny.
That's
They can make-
shocking. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. They can make these crops immune to certain things, and so they continue to spray more and more. And all of this to say, could be a weird genetic thing, but I have my theory about it, Bria. When my mom and myself got our MRT for the first time, we did this at least 6 months apart. Both of us, the highest thing that we had through the roof was corn. Now you say, well, Ev, why would that have to do with anything in the farm if they're spraying chemicals? So again, this is where I get theoretical, and I'm killing some time as we get questions going in. And this is not anti anything. I'm just stating things that are true. We do know that certain people can develop egg sensitivities or allergies, for example, because egg proteins are used in certain vaccinations. That is not for or against. I didn't say that. I'm just telling you something that is real. So it is my belief that when certain food proteins are commonly associated with certain pesticides or whatever, I think that's when our body gets screwed up. So there is no genetically modified wheat in America, contrary to common belief, but we do douse it in glyphosate, and it kind of helps, from my understanding, some of the process with harvesting and all that stuff. So my question then is, right, like if we have gluten all the time that's getting sprayed with all this stuff, I do believe we have gluten sensitivities. I think that's real. But I'm wondering, is it because the body so commonly associates, hey, I get this one of the worst pesticides ever known to man in my body at the same time this happens, and I kind of wonder if the same thing happens with corn. So this is my caffeinated crazy conspiracy theories. What do you got for me?
Oh, I'm 100% with you on that.
Okay,
I am
good.
amazed to see. I have many clients, like most of my clients predominantly are in Canada and the US. And one of the things I do immediately pull, like in our healing journey, is going to be gluten, just because I know it's adding a load to the body. But what I have found, I've had several clients actually go over to Europe, and even some live in Europe for like 6 weeks at a time and have zero issue with gluten when they're over there, but come back here and like the smallest amount just turns things over. So I think it's quite valid what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that has been for anyone working with women in this age box, what has been so shocking and amazing for me to see is, and even with Sarah, this example, she is thinking, I'm in perimenopause, my hormones are off. That's what she's thinking when she's having, can't sleep and low energy and, periods getting kind of wonky. But as you can see in that Dutch, she had like textbook amazing estradiol and progesterone. It had nothing to do with that. And so I think the work we do as FDNs is so important because we're looking below the hood. If she had just at 46 gone to her practitioner and said, something's off, and they just are going to start giving her maybe some progesterone for that or whatever, I mean, that could have caused more issues for her. The fact that she has no issues with her hormones, it is her detoxification. So hormone production, vine detox. And because of things like glyphosate and this stuff, as you're saying on the corn, that's where we're seeing these loads on the liver, on everything really pick up.
Yeah. We will. Oh, thank you guys. You are great. You have no idea how much of a rush this is as a host. This sounds like a stupid rush, but of course you want questions for your guest, and you guys every time they come through, but you never know until you ask, right? And I'm like, please do it. And then you guys comply. So this is great. But another interesting anecdote there. My mom started doing FDN stuff at the same exact time. They still live in that area. So it's hard for me to say, and I don't want to, correlation is not causation. Classic, science statement, right? But the farmer retired. And so he stopped using that whole thing. And like, that doesn't get grown into corn anymore each year. He doesn't do anything with it at all. And her allergies got like instantly better and all these things. And I can't help but wonder, I'm like, is it because she's not getting hit with pollen from something that she's highly sensitive to? Because that's another, we didn't even get into that. If you're sensitive to the corn and you're living right behind a cornfield, if you can inhale those proteins. I'm not trying to create paranoia in people. I'm just saying like that is a real thing that can happen. So live in a bubble, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. This is Dina.
Costa Rica, live off the grid.
Yes, this is Dina. I'm a trainee. Love the program. Hello again, Dina. Do you also use the MRT? And Bria, I know that you're very polite, so anything that you do or don't use, you can always be honest. I have no idea what you use. Do you currently do the MRT?
Yeah. Hi, Dina. I'm so glad you're a trainee. I sometimes use the MRT because I have a very niche client, and in the beginning, when I first started, I was really stuck to the 5 labs that we're trained on until I had some more advanced training into the other areas. Now I will typically run an MRT, only if needed, like if we aren't getting there on our own with nutrition, or if there is like a massively compromised mucosal barrier in the gut, then I might choose to add it on or talk to the client about it. Or if we're just having troubles with food sensitivities, most of my clients, that doesn't seem to be a key area of opportunity for us. So I don't use it as frequently as I did in the beginning.
What a perfect hand. I keep trying to teach them that though. Like, and Dina, I'm not talking to you. I know that you already know this stuff, but in general, it's like, when you graduate and you paid for a program, cool, do it that way. And then once you have some more experience with this stuff, which you already had some beforehand too, mind you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I can kind of bend around and play with this. That's why we give you guys access to all the labs. We know that you're going to do that, but you got to get your own clinical experience first before we can reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, for sure. My first 10 clients were by the book.
And you're like, okay, like maybe I can do this. That's fine. What do you feel about bioidentical HRT? Of course, it's not medical advice, but just what are your opinions on it?
I feel like it can be a very amazing thing for most people. I think where I always land on this, I feel very strongly that everyone should be doing a Dutch to better understand their hormone clearance and detoxification before they go on HRT, and that we want to optimize the underlying issues. We want to optimize the hormonal pathways, and then it could be a really beneficial thing for you as long as we see that it's safe. So I'm a lover of it when it's the right person and we can see that it's the right thing.
It's such a tough one as this conversation keeps happening more and more, because I'm like, well, even the healthiest person, the hormones are going to come down. And, it's easy for me to say at 30 and you're young, like, okay, like, hey, maybe not right now, but when I'm 60, if my testosterone goes down, I'll be straight up with you guys. There's no part of me that says I'm not going to raise that again. Like, I will inject whatever I have to inject.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yes.
These are great questions.
Do you get clients who have similar symptoms but are also on hormonal IUDs? How much does a hormonal IUD, like Marina, have or affect testing in the labs? Is that a factor? Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I absolutely get clients on hormonal IUDs. In fact, I get clients on hormonal IUDs taking bioidentical hormones, which is just a whole other, can of worms that I won't dive into and share my opinion on. But I absolutely, for me, there's many, many layers to how hormonal birth control in general, of course, impacts our body and our hormonal health. But in terms of testing, the Mirena is ideally going to make it difficult for us to recognize the true levels of our sex hormones. Plus, hormonal birth control typically drives up sex hormone binding globulin, which often is going to bind up our testosterone, even if testosterone looks okay on the lab. So I'd say it plays a big role in seeing the production of our sex hormones. But I think the production of our sex hormones on a Dutch is a tiny little bit of the value that lab provides. We're still going to get to see the detoxification pathways. We're still going to get to see methylation on that and how that's working. So whether they're going to stay on it or not, or get off of it, we can at least deal with the underlying issue if the fact that they're on the Mirena is not because of controlling birth. So yeah. Yes, I absolutely get clients who have detox issues, who have estrogen recirculation issues on an IUD. And I still think it's absolutely worth running all the labs even if they don't want to come off the IUD.
It'll never, especially as a guy, I'm not saying that someone shouldn't do that. It's not what I'm saying, but it is, the longer I'm in this space, it is kind of insane to me that we have just normalized, oh yeah, 14-year-old girl, here's a pill that just completely affects one of the most natural things in your body. Yeah. And we'll do that for 15, 20 years and hope for the best. It's like, well, yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah. And most of us were on it, hitting midlife
decision, but wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For clients with low sex hormones, what recommendations have made the biggest shifts from your perspective? That's great. Great question, Haley. I think I always say to my clients, my job is to work with you to try to answer the question, why? So first we want to know, why do we have low sex hormones, right? Is the reason our sex hormones are low only because we're pretty much perimenopausal and menopausal, I need to see that for sure. Like, is the gut detoxing? Is the liver detoxing? Is the thyroid good? Is that, or the adrenals? If everything is pretty tickety boo, but the sex hormones are just low, then, always we want to start with nutrition. Always we want to work on building lean muscle, because that's going to really support those. But that's where bioidentical hormone replacement, or even starting with just some herbs, can be really supportive. That is rarely the case for my clients. Usually there is much bigger issues to why the sex hormones are low. The adrenals are off, the thyroid's off, the liver's off. So that's where I think this lab work can be so supportive. But yes, if all things are healthy and functioning well in the body, we're not dealing with metabolic chaos, then the most effective thing I have found is putting on lean muscle, continuing to support the adrenals, because that's where our sex hormone production comes from, and supporting with some bioidenticals.
Beautiful. Thank you. It was either squinting or nerdy glasses. So you guys got nerdy glasses now. Good question here. What's the most challenging thing you faced when you first practiced FDN protocols?
I think lab ordering, just figuring out how to order, like just understanding the processes of how to do things. But I don't think that's what they're asking. I think just your own confidence and self-doubt, honestly. Like, I think all of us, when you go through, like, FDN is amazing, but it is robust, right? Like, so when you graduate, you have the knowledge. So I really think the greatest thing I struggled with, or most people struggle with, is just, confidence in yourself, and just kind of stepping back and listening in a way to what your gut says and what the bigger picture is, and not just focusing in on like one lab marker or something. When you trust your gut, I think it gets a lot easier, and you're going to get better. The more you do it, the better it gets, because you get more experience. So, and I think just being humble about that can be helpful.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think it's also different too and scary, because we're trying to teach people how to think, not necessarily what to think, right? So people want a protocol for this, perfect shape one for that, but it's like, well, no, we're ideally training Bria or Evan to form their own ones. And I totally can see where that imposter syndrome or confidence might lack. But to your point, guys, we wouldn't graduate you if you weren't ready. That's a fact. We would not graduate someone that's not ready, because that affects the client safety, it affects your confidence, and it affects us potentially, selfishly. So if you're graduated, you're ready to go. Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Great results. Do you offer group training, or are all of your clients one-on-one?
Yeah, I do both. Yes, I do both. So I love the one-on-one, but as we know, we're a bit capped. So a couple of times a year, I do offer a group coaching program. That kind of takes what I do. For me, in that, I center it around one lab, because I feel very strongly in my practice that I like that touch and feel with a client. I need to be able to sit down and do a really good results and recovery. I need to make sure they understand their lab, because I have a lot of clients that come to me who've actually had labs run and they have no idea about, like, nobody even went over with them, and I think that's so important. So I do offer both. It's just a little different.
Awesome. Okay, next one. Oh no, I'm sorry. I will get that one back. I just unstarred one, Nitty, so I'll go back to that. How did you get your first? Perfect. This is a loaded one usually. How did you get your first clients?
So I'd say my biggest driver of leads is my podcast. And I'll throw in some of the best business tip I ever got is, I use social media as well. So I do talk about things, and I had been in business before, working in health. So I was able to use an email list to start, sharing what I was learning. But one of the biggest business tips I ever learned is to have one piece of long form content consistently going out every single week. And for me, that's my podcast. For someone else, that might be a blog, maybe it's a YouTube video, but a place where you can grow that know, like, and trust. So my priority in my marketing is every week. Now I've had the podcast now for 3 years. So at that time, when I graduated, I had the podcast going for a year. And that was when I really just started talking about this testing, about lab work, about what I was learning. And then I was able to use social media to kind of pull posts from that. And ultimately, that's where my clients came from. So my kind of call to action was book a call if you want to learn more. And we, did discovery calls. So
Did you realize you were good at speaking when you started the podcast? I know you're humble. This is a moment that you could say it. Did you already understand that you were good at that?
No. But I think at that point I knew I'd gotten a lot better than I used to be. And I guess I was brave enough to just do it. So
I got you.
yeah.
Well, I always bring up this quote on these things when we're talking about the business side: fortune favors the bold, right? So just guys, you already beat half the people. Not that it's supposed to be a competition, but I am saying that business has that nature to it. So you beat half the people at least just by showing up. Most people don't want to do that. I only ask because I think you are a classic example of capitalizing on strengths. There's a reason that I do the podcast here and do that. That's just what works for me. That's my zone of genius.
Yeah.
Then you get people like Lucy, our executive director of our graduate group. She built up like a 40,000 person following on Instagram. She would not, I mean, she's a fine speaker, but it's not like she would say that she's some crazy speaker, but she just, for whatever reason, understands. It's like those reels that I watch that I'm like, I don't know why this is doing so well, but it keeps doing well. And like, it's a format, right? It's like the B-roll of like them doing something in their life with the perfect music and the perfect captions.
Yeah.
So you capitalize on those strengths, and that's probably going to be one of the best ways to get the initial client. So I just thought that was cool.
It's a really good point. And so I think for anyone, you know, thinking about getting the first clients is, find what you like enough, because you're going to get better at the thing you like. So I think when I go back to my first episode compared to, I think I'm at 360 episodes now.
Yes.
I mean, I sound way better now than I did then. So find what you like, do the thing consistently. You're going to get better at it. I promise.
Awesome advice. All right, I found the question I accidentally skipped before, so thank you, friend. Do you notice a lot of women going through perimenopause are slow oxidizers, or is it still case by case mostly?
Yeah. So I just want to clarify here, because there's two different ways we look at like oxidizers. If you're running an HTMA, for example, a hair tissue mineral analysis, they often will give you, you know, a slower fast oxidizer, and it's a different way of testing than metabolic typing. It's telling you an entirely different thing. Most people in midlife, most adults midlife and beyond on an HTMA are going to be a slow oxidizer. In metabolic typing, which is what I talked about in the case study, no, I see quite a mix of slow and fast oxidizers and a mixed in the middle. So it's pretty, you know, it runs the gamut in that sense, Bethany. I hope that helps explain that.
May I ask you a follow-up for this question? So what I want to know is it's always cool to see someone that's still utilizing metabolic typing. I don't know why. I think people end up getting confused or not doing it consistently. My wife and I still use it. We think it works great. So I don't know. But I was wondering, because metabolic typing, the diet, does give supplement recommendations. I'm not saying that those are good or bad. I have no idea. I've never actually even tried the full thing. But I eat, or tell a client to eat, based on the metabolic typing diet, but I supplement like the metabolic type on the HTMA. Do you resonate with that, or do you do something different?
No, I resonate with that, with what you do. So I don't supplement based on the metabolic typing diet. I supplement based on what the needs are of that come up in the labs.
Okay. All right. You're the second person I've asked that to. One of them was our COO, and she agrees. So it's like, it's kind of cool because those types might, again, look different, like Bria said, but I really think supplementing with the HTMA stuff is probably smart. That makes sense. But then eating with the other thing, like I'm a mixed oxidizer on the metabolic typing diet. That does very well for me, especially depending on the day. You kind of learn how to feel it out and when things are going to be best for you. Unfortunately, right now I am in that slow oxidizer thing on HTMA still. I just reran one recently, but I can't deny that it's accurate, because when I supplement for it, it's like within days I notice, wow, it's not like you're flying, but like on energy, but you have more or whatever. And then Maddie just ran one for the first time, fast oxidizer formula. And you know how they titrate you very slowly. She moved up a little bit too fast because we thought she was fine. She's like, I literally had to slow it down because I had too much energy. I'm like, well, that's probably a good problem to have as we get a little bit older here. So it's very cool. All right, we did that one. OB said, thanks for the presentation. How have you modified the metabolic typing questionnaire to decrease the intake process overwhelm for your clients? I guess this is assuming that you have.
I have not. I will say I have not. I usually I send the test. After doing quite a lot of them, I have found that, you know, when I'm trying to save money for my clients, I have been, not using the diet check record sheets. I think ultimately I like to use metabolic typing in my practice as like a foundational piece to start with, but I'm always listening to the person's body and teaching them to listen to their own body, especially in women, because we cycle, right? So some part of the month we're going to be hungrier or have different needs macro wise than others. So I will find just even having them kind of track their food on a diet check record sheet, me seeing it, noticing those patterns, bringing those patterns to them and having them pay attention to their own body can, you know, if we need to avoid too many questions, that can be helpful, but I don't modify it. I buy the test and send it to them.
Do you ever, not that we should be guessing this, but I'm just saying from someone like you who does have a lot of clinical experience now, do you ever find that you can kind of tell what the person's going to be beforehand based on their own preferences?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And how they're feeling.
Yes. So yeah, my wife got fast oxidizer on both the metabolic typing diet and HTMA by coincidence. And I could have told you that from day one. So this is funny. We're sitting at dinner with her parents for the first time. Her dad, Desert Storm veteran, 6'3", probably 260 pounds. And like, I don't mean like fully jacked, but like farm size. Like he works on a farm, so it's just big guy. And thank God, I was polite enough to be like, oh yeah, Maddie, of course, order first. Because she's like, can I get a steak rare? Now, I only get a medium rare. And so, of course, when the waiter goes to me next, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take a steak rare as well. You know, I can't let her dad see me get a steak not as rare as her in front of him. So, but when you're at the time 26-year-old girlfriend is like, yeah, I'll take a steak rare, 99% chance you might have a fast oxidizer girlfriend.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Let's go to the next one here. Oh, cool. How did you increase your following on social when building your business?
Yeah. You know, social media is a fickle and finicky lady, I find. Because, you know, they're ever changing the algorithm. Here's what I have found to be, you know, the most effective way to grow my social media. But like from your long form content that you do, we want to first be consistently posting, right? So we do want consistency in the cadence of when we show up. But what I find is through my long form, I use that long form to connect and kind of cross share with other people. And that grows my social media. So in podcasting world, that looks like I will interview other people who have a podcast on or other experts. And then I tag them on social, and then that will grow me some followers typically, and bring more people into my world. And then in turn, I will work to be interviewed on other people's podcasts, which has probably grown my business the fastest. So awesome. That drives that. Yeah.
Very good tip. Okay, I'll move forward from that one. If someone was on BC, birth control, can there be lingering, maybe even years of problems after stopping it? Well,
yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges, well, there's lots of challenges, of course, but, you know, I'd already talked about it. So testosterone, sex binding globulin can be raised and then not go anywhere. You know, the progestin in birth control, binds more strongly to the progesterone receptors. And so it can kind of fatigue them out where we can't even get the benefits of progesterone as well after it. Like you might not get the benefits. So there is a slew of issues, that can linger long-term if we don't support that.
I only want what you genuinely believe here. So let's say, hey, I am in a situation, well, not me personally, but someone's in a situation where they're dealing with years of lingering effects from birth control. Do you believe that they can mostly get back to a good place? Is there always going to be some long-term detriment? What have you seen in your clinical experience?
No, I believe most things are figure-outable for sure. Cool. I think so.
Awesome. That's encouraging. And I believe you. Cool. I've seen miracles with this stuff, guys. There was I won't mention her name, obviously. There's a young woman I worked with. Well, I guess I was the same age at the time, 25, 26. And she was off birth control for a year. And again, she's a client. So she did tell me, she's like, I haven't had a period for a year, by the way. I thought I didn't have one because of the birth control. And then I got off for a year and I haven't had one the entire time. Now, what's so nuts is, are you big on like the circadian biology side of things, sunrise and blue light glass? Okay. So you could say it's fake. I don't know. Seems real to me. So one of the first things I had her do, because remember, this is a hormone issue in a sense. It's not just that, but that's one of the things. So we had her start going out and catching sunrise every day because her routine before was wake up at 5:30 in the morning in the Northeast. So very dark unless it's summer. go to the gym right away, artificial light, bam, shower, bam, government job, inside all day. So, I mean, literally many days, especially in winter and fall, no sunlight at all, except the drive from one place to the other. And of course, that doesn't count in the same way if you have your windows closed, which typically you do if it's 15 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And so she did this sunrise thing for literally a week. And I'm not saying it was perfect from the way that she described. It's so funny because they'll still use a barrier with how they explain it to me because I'm a male, right? So she said it was not what she'd expect, but her period started to come back within a week of doing that, even though she had not had one for a year. We hadn't changed anything else yet. I hadn't even got the test results back. I was just giving her lifestyle stuff. So my point is, no matter how serious this stuff can be, and yes, it could be a year, it could be multiple years, if you have them do the basics, this body is designed to heal. We were talking about that earlier, guys, right? A broken bone does not need a cast. A cast just helps it heal in the right direction. It's the body that heals the bone. Paper cut, same thing. It wants to be healthy, wants your hormones to be good, but we got to give it the right stuff. And if we're stressed to the max on pills, on medications, which we might need to be on at the time, that's fine. And then no sunlight. I mean, you're like a plant, dude. You got to get sunlight. You can't just be indoors all day, right?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
There is hope.
I like to think of my clients like we're just working on a puzzle and we're working on it together. So it can be a really collaborative effort with your clients. And sometimes there's a few missing pieces and it just takes us a little while to put that puzzle together. But then you have these moments like with your client there where you're like, oh my gosh, this just worked. And it's kind of opposite of what she was doing, which is why it probably worked, So
it's cool when it can be that simple too. This is what is MRT again? No worries, Holly's looking into the FDN course right now. Mediator release test. It's the food sensitivity test. We teach a standard for American-based FDNs, but actually almost every country has a different food sensitivity test that we do use. So just something to keep in mind if you go through the course. Here you go, another one for you. Thoughts on a diet high in saturated fat to supply the cholesterol needed to make sex steroid hormones? Could this have issues depending on the metabolic type?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Mediterranean diet, obviously, but like I am primarily plant-based, just purely because of animal rights reasons. But I do eat eggs, I do eat butter, avocado, olive oil. Like, I don't think it's as hard to get fat in as good healthy fats as people need. So of course we know if you are a fast oxidizer, when we're thinking about metabolic type, you might actually get more, you'd eat maybe the same kind of fats and same amount of fats, like in your nuts and your seeds and your avocado oil and your olive oil, but you might eat a higher purine meat, which is going to be a fattier meat. And that's going to take you to that next level, I think, in terms of your metabolic type. But I think as long as the fats that you're eating are healthy fats, again, nuts, nut butters, seeds, the avocado, the coconut oil, things like that, real butter, real fat dairy, that kind of thing. I think that's going to give you exactly what you need for your sex hormones. And if you're optimizing the rest of your body and avoiding inflammatory foods, I don't think you're going to have any problem with your cholesterol or feeling well.
Cool. Very interesting. All right. And then let me double check, but I think this is the final one we have for right now. So guys, please, if you have any last second ones, we actually still have some time. So please feel free to throw them in. Otherwise, I'm not going to hold someone all day. How useful is it to read The Metabolic Typing Diet by William Wolcott? So the gentleman, obviously, that came up with the metabolic typing to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it after I learned this in course. I bought it and read it after. It was just fascinating. I think I found, for me, again, like I think I said this already, this way of understanding nutrition, it was like made so much sense. Like it literally explained nutrition to me and why people are so different about nutrition in just one theory in a way. So I think it's a really useful read, especially if you find nutrition challenging or you work really with people in nutrition, because I found it to make so much sense in such an area that's so confusing for people. And it just fundamentally addresses how bio-individual we are. And there's no one size fits all approach to nutrition. And I am surprised it is not way more well known. And I think it's just because it's not sexy.
I could not agree. It's too technical, right?
Yeah.
Vegan, paleo, okay, this is what you do, this is what you exclude. I can teach it to you in 2 seconds. I really can't teach the metabolic typing diet to you in 2 seconds.
No.
And I totally agree with you that that's one of the reasons that, even though
That's
it works so darn well, and
It's so easy at the same
it's one of
time.
the only ones I know that's not cookie cutter,
Yeah.
right? Everything, even paleo. Like, I'm more paleo based. That's still
Yeah.
cookie cutter. It says do this stuff and that's it only. Metabolic typing accounts for those other things, but again, that doesn't sell as well.
It requires you to pay attention to your body. They give you a great, start here. This is a fuel mixture for you to start with, but then listen to what your body says, because you're going to still need to adjust these things, because no diet can account for how busy you are in your life, for how much muscle you have, for your basal metabolic rate. Like, no diet can account for those things. So you have to pay attention. And that's the one piece that I think a lot of people don't want to do.
Absolutely. Oh, cool. Another question came in. And Megan, I know that you are on enough times. I got to reword this. It's just, this seriously matters. We cannot answer these questions directly. So how about I'm going to flip this to you, Bria, if you would be so kind. Bria, let's say you were in this situation and we're transitioning off hormonal birth control and you've been on it for 20 plus years. Okay. And you were this is actually, now I really have to reverse this. So would you personally take, a high quality multi, magnesium glycinate, omega-3 probiotics, and B vitamin complex just for this? I'm curious what you would do if this was your situation.
Yeah. I think those are all really great nutrients that I see women typically be deficient in. So these would be ones I would absolutely consider. I would, of course, test and not guess. That would be really important to me, because that's what I've trained to, and I really see the value in it. So I'd almost probably want to see, and if you're in the US, my blood work is what I'd want to see probably on where things are at. And then I actually am a big fan of getting like full spectrum trace minerals, or humic and fulvic minerals, to make sure that that baseline is there for my body. So, I mean, that's just kind of off the cuff is where I would start, is I'd probably be doing full spectrum humic and fulvic trace minerals. And then I would test to see what I really needed. But if I couldn't test, I think that is a nice mix to start with.
Yes.
For myself.
And then also, I would assume this is what Megan was getting at to some degree. So I would have to assume you would not necessarily think it's suffice to just do that to completely try to get back to normal after 20 plus years of that stuff. We're definitely going to have to test and look into some other things, I'd assume, right? Again, not saying that can't help, but I don't know if that alone is going to be the thing that gets you to where you want to go.
I mean, probably in a perfect world, 2 to 3 months after I got off birth control, I would do the labs. I would do a Dutch for sure, a GI map, and then I would check minerals. That's what I would want to do for myself.
All right. Oh, you guys are smart. You keep sneaking them in. Apologies if you've already covered this. Have you had clients with PMDD? If so, have you observed any commonalities between cases, deficiencies, and such? What about this?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I wouldn't say I've had many, but because I am typically dealing with women later in midlife, so I think they've addressed some of this for themselves. But I do have several that struggle. I think that we see progesterone dropping, actually all hormones dropping way too quickly during like post-ovulation. So that's sort of a key area. And then again, the question is kind of why. What I have found, so obviously we have all our lab work that can be really helpful to understand, like, do we not have the ingredients? Do we not have the nutrients and minerals? If the detoxification is fine and we're having this fast drop off, what I have seen is we're just not getting the nutrients and the absorption of the nutrients that we need. And that's where I think, again, mineral support can be really helpful, really looking at nutrition and lifestyle and stress. But yeah, doing like a much deeper, like methylation, I would say that's another big piece of the puzzle that I see in PMDD is people with different genetic methylation mutations or comp SNPs, things like that can kind of play a role into that. So I know that gets a bit wordy there, but or in different terms if we haven't learned these things. But I think ultimately what I see is either blood sugar dysregulation, mineral deficiencies, or hormones dropping too quickly. That's the commonalities I've seen.
Sorry, I normally try to translate when I know something. I actually forget. What is PMDD?
Oh, postmenopausal or premenopausal dysphoric disorder.
Okay, thank you.
It's like very severe PMS. Like we can get really, really emotionally off.
Got it. Okay. Well, you guys are getting the time's worth. There you go. We got 13 minutes technically,
Oh,
if you don't mind. Is there any limitation you faced with regard to lab results and recommendations for your international clients compared to the US and Canadian clients?
Not really. I mean, again, blood chemistry is one thing I can only run in the United States. But aside from that, I mean, I can get a lot of what I need on an HTMA anyway. So I'll just run that outside. And then there's certainly some states in the US that we can't run blood chemistry in. So that's what I'll do. No, I really haven't found many limitations. Sometimes labs take a bit longer to get back, I find, in other countries than here, where it can be pretty quick in Canada and the US. But commercial lab results, no. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I've gotten better at the recommendations. So lab results, no, I don't find any challenges there, with the exception of can't run blood chemistry. No big deal. There's other things we can run. And often I will give the blood markers to my clients and say, ask your doctors to run this for you. And then we overlook that piece, which is great. But recommendations, yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of getting to know different supplements and where we can get the supplements in different countries. But I think one of the things I have just been so appreciative as an FDN are the client advisor sessions. So when you graduate, you can actually pay for, or if you're ordering through the FDNP, you get a client advisor session. So you get a 30-minute session with, a mentor who's been doing this longer and helps you look at the case or the lab. And it has been one of the fastest ways I've grown, I think, is doing as many of these as I can as well. And I can't thank the client advisors enough. They're incredible. But we have client advisors all over as well. And so I have found that a really helpful place to, if I have clients in Australia, then we have a client advisor who's in Australia. And so I book it with her. And then she helps me understand what the options are. And then I learn, and I don't need to do that again. So that's where I think the challenges can come, but there's absolutely ways to learn around that.
Guys, I swear to God, we don't pay these people. They really do just like FDN this much. I mean, some of you that come on, like, it's like, all right, I could not have written this out any better, so thank you. All right, here we go. I always mess this one up. Have you used Shilajit for humic and fulvic minerals, or do you prefer a different source?
I have used some Shilajit. I do affiliate a bit for Organifi, who makes Shilajit, and I do like their stuff, but I have fallen in love, and I do not affiliate for them, but I have just fallen in love with these humic and fulvic minerals called BEAM minerals, BEAM minerals. I just find them amazing. They're, so really easy to take, really easy to get, decent cost wise. You can get them actually all over the world from different distributors. And I interviewed the owner and creator on my podcast, and that was what I was like, I want to try these. So I did, and they were amazing. So, but Shilajit can be good. It's just a different source of them.
All right, I officially love this audience, because the way I look at this stuff is I'm like, if I am lucky enough to have someone that is doing what I want to do and they're answering questions for me for free, I would ask as many as possible. So you guys are great. Sorry, we're going to keep you to the half-hour mark, Bria.
I'll take it.
Have you used AHCC or other mushroom functional food supplements?
I'm not sure what AHCC stands for. Can we
figure that out while you do this?
Mushroom function. I do understand mushroom functional supplements, like adaptogens like reishi and lion's mane. And I mean, we're not talking psilocybin, I assume here. We're talking about.
It's just so active hex. I had not heard of this either. Active hexose correlated compound is a dietary supplement derived from the mycelia of various mushrooms, specifically within the, not even going to try that word, something family. So there you go.
Yeah. So I haven't used AHCC clearly. Now I'm interested in it, and I'm probably going to research it. So thank you for that. But yeah, I definitely have used mushrooms in my practice and in myself for sure. I think I'm a big fan of like mushroom coffee, because I do like coffee, but I'm trying to find ways to nourish those adrenals at all times. And we see a lot of mushrooms. I have adaptogenic mushrooms in my like daily protein shake for sure that I take. So I'm a big fan of mushrooms. I think they can be really supportive. All of them.
All right. What are your thoughts on cycle syncing?
I like cycle syncing. I think it's a fascinating understanding of the female body. I do think at the end of the day, the best part about it is that it teaches us to listen to our own body. And that's ultimately what my goal and kind of brand mission is. Listen to the messages from your body. As women transition into perimenopause, our cycles aren't as regular. And even though we can use the moon in cycle syncing, I think fundamentally the best thing we learn from cycle syncing is to pay attention. What is my body saying? And have some compassion for the season that you're in. So I think if it works for you and you want to be rigid with it, I think it's amazing. I think seed cycling is amazing for all women, which is sort of a part of that cycle syncing. But I pretty much follow cycle syncing for my fitness, I will say.
Okay. All right. OB again, since there are only fast, mixed, and slow oxidizers, have you found situations without testing where you ascribe someone mixed just to err on the side of what will make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think without testing, I might start with a mixed kind of ratio, but then just within that first week, I'm looking at those diet check record sheets and I'm looking at what they're eating and how they're feeling compared to what they're eating. And you can pretty quickly, adjust their fuel mixture based on that. I think you need a bit more carbohydrates, or I think we need a bit more fats and proteins. So I think that's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
If a client of yours is having hormonal issues and symptoms of perimenopause and also has been exposed to consistent mold in their house, would you address the mold toxicity first prior to addressing the hormones?
Yes. I mean, I may have more questions in order to answer that.
I could totally read you as an FDN practitioner. If this is my only option, sure. Yeah, we'll get you out of the mold.
Yeah. Like I'd want to look, I'd probably, first get out of the mold and then how's the detox? Because again, it's hard to, most people's perimenopause symptoms are not because of their sex hormone production. It's because of the other things impacting the sex hormones. So yes, if that, which I believe is true, then we would definitely address the mold toxicity first.
I will handle this one just to make it easy. Does the Australian clinical advisor cover Asia as well? So yes, where the advisors are at is a good question. Is less about actually the labs that are available there. It's more that it's the time zone. So that's more to help you out with the time zone things, so that you can get someone that's not at 3 a.m. for you, because that's not fair. If we're going to sign someone up in Asia or in Australia, we can't be having you meet at 3 a.m. for one of our clinical advisors. So it's not that. I am sure our clinical advisors in Australia are more well-versed in Australian labs. That's fine. But it is actually primarily more for the time zone availability than it is anything else.
Yeah. And the labs, a lot of the labs are the same. It was more for the supplements that I found it helpful for supplement availability in the area. But
yep. All right. Have either of you used products from Touchstone Essentials? If so, thoughts on product quality? They have fulvic mineral, zeolite, and other compounds. I'll make mine easy. Unfortunately, no. I hadn't even heard of that until this moment.
Me either. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Angelique. I'm sure they're great. What percentage of women do you get also identify with ADHD, and do their ADHD-like symptoms end up improving from working with you? Interesting question.
At least 50%, and yes.
Nice.
I'll try to answer that one quickly. It's just ADHD symptoms. Well, hormones shifting will create symptoms like ADHD, and it will irritate and exacerbate ADHD symptoms. So yes, absolutely, we see improvements.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm a personal believer. Not everyone will resonate with this. It's fine. I do believe that there's probably some people who, I don't even want to just say genetically, but there is a slight difference here with what I mean. I'm going to say biologically are more wired towards what we call ADHD. We know people with high extroversion are more stimulation seeking, lower conscientiousness, higher neuroticism. So there's actually personality traits that are well studied and correlated with what we call ADHD, disease or not. Yeah. But it is interesting that you brought this up, because I have found, and even in myself, when I got exposed to mold, as people get sicker, they seem to manifest with symptoms that seem similar to ADHD. A lot of us do, at least. Like, I'm more impulsive. I might be shorter tempered. I might just be like seeking novelty, like, something quick on YouTube just because I'm feeling low. Right. So, and I can't brain fog, can't focus as much. So for all intents and purposes, the symptoms are almost identical, but I don't necessarily have the condition. Although some would beg to differ that work with
you. Is that your wife? No, I'm kidding.
Pretty much any colleague that's here knows this, and Nitty's probably smiling in the background. Damn, if this kid couldn't speak, he would not be here. So you just got to be good at one thing, folks. Okay, next one here. I think we'll actually get to all of them. This is great. Angelique is going to be after this. She'll be the last one just because I do have a hard stop, and Bria has been incredibly kind with her time.
Thank you.
This has been one of the, nice. This has been one of the best case studies. Thank you for your time. Do you think that focusing on longevity would be a good career path for me as an FDN?
Well, I don't know you, but if you love longevity, then yes. Do I think it's a good niche? Absolutely. I think if you're passionate about it, and why not? I would probably niche down into longevity in a specific age box, just so that you can get personally. I think having kind of although I can understand all female hormones, and I think I'm not in the fertility land, right? I've kind of niched down into more like, okay, 35 to 60 is really my area. So if you in longevity, like, are you talking about longevity for people in midlife who, want to get into peptide therapy and biohacking and that kind of thing? Are you talking about longevity for people who are senior and above? So I would try to specialize down into that. But thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you liked the case.
Yeah. And well, we had a bunch of case studies in October, so that's a huge compliment. So John, for whatever it's worth too, remember, it's always going to be, I'm just talking from a business perspective, it will always be harder to sell longevity, generally speaking, than someone who's in real pain right now. Because we have to have that forethought to realize, later I might want to feel better. So I totally agree with what Bria just said about the age thing. But in terms of, is the FDN system good for it? I'm being serious. I don't know a system that's better for it. This system can help someone that has 7 different diagnosed conditions like me, and it can help someone that barely feels any symptoms, because the tests are looking for things that would create disease long-term or are actively creating it. So by not looking for a diagnosis or criteria that are only going to lead to diagnoses, you find things in people before they even get sick, which is an amazing thing.
Yeah. And to put that for John in just one other different way. So ultimately, I help women with longevity. They just come to me because I market to them in perimenopause. I'm marketing to perimenopause and the symptoms that come in perimenopause. But ultimately, what I am helping them with is longevity. That's what we're doing. We're healing so we can live longer and better lives.
All right, OB, yours is an easy one, so we'll take yours after Angelique. OB's is the real last one. I'm sorry, guys. And Bria, before we do this question, just because people are about to tune out, could you just shout out one more time, where can they find you, podcasts that they can listen to? Let's just say all the things again.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for having me. So come anywhere you get your podcasts. It's called The Period Whisperer, or come hang out with me on Instagram at Bria_period_whisperer.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm just telling my next meeting just wrapping up. And if you guys did tune in late, remember, replays are instantly available for our Black Friday Discovery Series. If you're on YouTube, all you have to do is actually stay here. You can just redo this. If you're not watching on YouTube, I highly recommend it. Go to @FDN Training on YouTube under our live tab, not video, not shorts. It's not a video. It was a live. All of our things from Black Friday are available, so you can have fun with that this weekend and enjoy those. We had some case studies, the keynote from November 10th, and a lot of stuff coming up next week as well. All right, Angelique here. Have you seen issues with using phytoestrogen containing supplements like holy basil on women's cycles? I had a friend with a super regular cycle, started using holy basil, and her period arrived a week late. Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. Herbs impact our hormones for sure. If people are taking chaste tree when they don't need it, it's going to delay your period or change your period or something. So yeah, that's my quick answer, is absolutely it will impact. I'd be really sure of what I'm doing before I take something like that.
I shared the thing so you can see the thank yous coming through live. And then this is an easy one, hopefully. So that's why I said we can take it. What e-commerce store platform do you use for your products and not supplements, if you don't mind sharing?
So like, where do I sell my services? Or
I think so. I'm going to go with that because we only have so much time. So yeah.
So I use Kajabi. I have kind of everything for my whole website and how I sell my, any programs that I make and my services through Kajabi. And then I use FullScript, I guess, in terms of supplement store, if that's another, but I think you said not supplements. Yes. So Kajabi, that's what I use.
Awesome. Bria, thank you so much. So cool to have this full circle. And I'll talk with you very briefly off air if you don't mind. So once we end it, we can actually still chat. I'd love to do some other things with you in the future. And again, guys, if you could just drop a thank you for Bria. We are off for this Friday. Remember, you can watch those replays all throughout the weekend. If you've missed anything over the last 2 weeks, there's been some amazing content. Please go check it out. Even if you're not considering the FDN course, that's why we have this stuff for you guys. You could still learn something, obviously. And then we'll be getting started again on Monday. We have business sessions, business business success sessions. We have different things that we're showing you from the grad and trainee group. And then on Monday, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern, please be there. We have our keynote or finalized, or how am I trying to say this, man? I've been streaming for 3 hours. I'm losing it. Finishing keynote, concluding keynote, whatever you want to call it. What I'm trying to do right now, that word. That'll be it, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern. We're giving away Amazon cards for the holidays and advanced course to some lucky winners.